Sleepy town settled for the night, where every lawn is tailored just right, and it's about time that the back porch light comes on. At that house down the street, at that house on Magnolia Street.
Good morning. Okay. My stomach is kind of upset today. I don't know what happened.
What'd you eat?
Dude, I don't even know. But I feel very old today. Diggity took me the fuck out yesterday while I was like gardening. I stepped backwards and he was already dead set on wherever he was going. He clipped my leg. My knee hurts so bad today. And it's not even the leg he hit. The leg that hurts stayed planted and I did like a 180 into the air, and all I could do was laugh because it was so fucking funny. And Josh, my brother-in-law, was right there watching. But today it's like ruh-roh.
Oh no, it's hurting.
Yeah, it's hurting.
Did you ice it at all?
No, I didn't feel it like hurting until last night when I was trying to fall asleep.
Is it the same leg that you have the didn't you break your ankle at one point?
Yeah. No, it's the other leg.
Oh, great. So now you have two fucked up legs.
How are you doing?
I'm alright.
Yeah,
I'm tired.
Me too.
But I had some weird fucking dreams last night.
What were they?
I had a dream that like me and Avi, I don't know if you were there, somebody else was there, but we were at this like it was like a Halloween train. And like I don't remember, like I feel like I was like a little kid when whoever I was with was driving me there, but then when I got there I was like a full ass adult.
That's cute.
And we get there and like it's kind of like a train station, like you like go into, or kind of like, you know, one of those drive-in like not a shuttle, a ferry, like a drive-in ferry. It was like that, like you drive and then like you have to get out of the car and then like run to your train car, and they're all numbered.
Okay.
But it's like a conveyor belt.
Okay.
So like you have to like find your number along the conveyor belt, and like we were driving past ours as we were trying to park, and we were like, oh, that's it. I think it was like 142 was the number of it, which is weird. What's that number fucking mean? I don't know. I gotta look it up. But we're like 142. That's it. So we drive past it, and then we have to like backtrack because it's on like this conveyor belt system, so it keeps moving, and like we have to like catch up to it. So, but then like it like splits into like different parts of the deck. So we gotta like figure out which like section to go in to find our train car. And then we like finally freaking get there. And like when you get there, there's supposed to be like a Halloween character that you get to ride with. It was so fucking weird. I don't know what I fucking smoked before I went to sleep last night, but
it sounds like a nightmare.
Fucking wild. I wish they would like implement this in like Salem, because the concept sounds freaking cool, but it was such a pain in the ass to like park and then run to your fucking car.
Yeah, dude.
It was banana.
Oh my god, are you exhausted from it?
I'm exhausted just from telling that story, so I'm gonna take a sip of my coffee and shut the fuck up now.
What character were you supposed to ride with?
I don't know if it was like a scarecrow or something weird. But then, like, we got there, but it was weird because, like, as we're passing all the cars to park, you figure, like, you would see people and, like, characters already, like, sitting with their people.
Yeah.
They were all empty. Everything was
weird.
empty. So it was, like this, like, really weird, eerie feeling, like, but kind of like a feeling of exclusivity. Like, you know when you're at a theme park and, like, nobody's in line for the ride, you're like, oh, cool, you get to ride this by yourself.
VIP.
It kind of felt like that, but it was also very eerie because I was like, why is nobody else around?
Yeah,
Why?
what the hell?
It was very strange.
Spooky! You gotta look up that numerology. 142.
So it's a 1, 4, 5, 5, and 2, 7. The number would be 7.
Okay.
Because that's how you do numerology. Yeah, I don't remember what that means. I gotta look up what the number means. I know how to like actually like boil it down to the one number to like get the reading on, but then I'm like, I don't know what the numbers mean. So I gotta look up. But speaking of spooky, 2 days ago was Halloween.
Mm-hmm.
And what fucking happened on Halloween?
We hit our campaign goal!
Hit our goal!
Halloween miracle!
We just recap this for a second because it was very strange the way it happened. We were like, all day we were sitting at like $350 away from our goal, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, all right, we have like two more days or one more day left of our campaign. I'm like, I don't know if we're gonna hit this. And I was just gonna put in like $300 just to get us over that hump, just to meet the goal. Because I mean, we really didn't have that much left to, but like it just wasn't moving. Like,
Not moving. And I knew that there was like one or two people that might have contributed, but it wasn't pending. It was pending, not going through yet. We were just waiting. And I was like, if we make it, we make it. If not, we'll be able to put in our own stuff to get us to past the finish line.
Right. But then, I guess, at the witching hour, I don't know, sometime on Halloween evening, right? The evening
Let me
sometime?
see what time that was. I saved both of those Marcos because I don't think did you text me? I think I saw your text, and then you were like, Mike just Marco'd us.
Yeah.
And I went and watched the Marcos.
Yeah, I'm just like sitting there waiting for my parents to come over because they were going to come over to grab some leftovers from our Halloween party. I get a Marco from Mike.
It was 8 p.m.
8 p.m. All right. So yeah, I get a Marco from Mike, our Plaid Dog producer, and I was kind of hesitant to watch it right away because I was like, please don't tell me like something else is wrong with my freaking Instagram. Like something else is wrong with something.
Yeah.
But then I was like, all right, let me just fucking watch it. So I watched it, and he was like, did we just make the goal on Halloween? I'm like, wait a minute, what?
He's so cute.
Who put us over the $350 hump? And then I went to look, and it was your old nanny boss, right?
It was my the woman that I used to nanny her two daughters, who are all grown up now, and they're just the sweetest. I called them yesterday just to thank them and catch up and stuff like that. And she's like, you are our third child. We want to see your dreams come true. This is so exciting. This is like a once in a lifetime. And just being with their girls, she was saying, like, we couldn't have done it without you. I'm like, are you kidding? You guys would have found a way. They've always been insanely generous people. And it's just really so sweet of them to push us over that last little bit.
Yeah, so thank you. Her name's Melanie, right?
Thank you, Melanie.
Melanie,
Thank you guys.
so much. And we got a couple more little donations like flowing in after that. Like just kept going. But we just want to thank everybody once again for contributing, donating, and we can't wait to take the next steps to be able to put together these perks for you guys because we owe you guys some stuff.
Yes.
And then number 2, I guess start planning out these other songs and our next trip back to Plaid Dog because we're going back.
Yeah. Yep. Maybe by the time you're hearing this, we might have the next steps in place, in plan, at least.
Hopefully. Yeah. So anyway, I just wanted to tell everybody that because that's so exciting.
The
Definitely
beginnings of a Practical Magic concept album, a full EP.
It just blows my mind that it happened on Halloween.
I know. How we be doing that?
I don't know. What are the chances? But I mean, no, there are no coincidences.
Mm-hmm. It was perfect. The best gift. Best Halloween gift. Thank you. Thank you again, Melanie, and everybody else who contributed.
Yeah. All right. Hey, which hey.
Hey, I'm Christina.
I'm Justina. And welcome to Magnolia Street.
The one and only Practical Magic Fandom podcast, as well as the creators of the very first Practical Magic concept album that's in the works. So
as far as we know. Right?
Oh my God, we're back again. We were just here. And this is 2 days after the last one was recorded, and I've just been editing to crank that one out. So
how's that one going?
It's done.
Good. Okay, cool.
Yeah, we're ready.
So are we spinning off of that topic?
We are.
Like literally?
We're spinning right along on that spinning wheel.
We are talking about spinsters.
The spinsters.
The spinsters.
This is Donna and Darlene's episode.
Basically, when me and you are at this point, right? What is like the official age of a spinster, like back in the day? What was like considered?
I think it says it in our notes somewhere. I'm going to say 22.
That's young. That is so young. That is so young that people were writing women off that early on in their lives that didn't have children yet. It's
right.
I'm still a fucking child. Like,
we're going to find out, but is it women who are childless or is it women who are unmarried?
I think both. I think both can be considered a spinster.
Okay, cool.
Right? Yeah.
Well, let's start off with, I guess, a quote from a possible poem. This is by Lizzie, and it's called Old Maid, and it says, always being one, never being two, rearrange the furniture, there's nothing else to do, keep an empty house, watch your brothers wed, dream an empty dream at night upon an empty bed. Old maid, old maid. That sounds awesome. I love rearranging my furniture.
I would not mind being an old maid.
But anyway, we're talking about this because this trope seems to go along with witches a lot. And we
Yeah.
just did our spinning fiber episode about the history of why spinning fiber is so connected to witchcraft. So go check that out. That was the one right before this. But this term has kind of transitioned over the centuries that it's been used. So we wanted to talk about that and talk about where it comes up in practical magic.
All right. So, a spinster is a term referring to an unmarried woman who is older than what is perceived as the prime age range during which women usually marry. It can also indicate that a woman is considered unlikely to ever marry. The term originally denoted a woman whose occupation was to spin, which we were just talking about in our last episode. A synonymous term is old maid, like the poem you just read. The closest equivalent term for males is a bachelor or confirmed bachelor, but this generally does not carry the same connotations in reference to age and perceived desirability in marriage. So the men got the better end of the stick there, right? Like if a man is single and doesn't have children, he's considered this cool, suave guy that everybody wants to fucking be like, and not like an old witch, which is basically what women have been deemed to be if they were considered a spinster. So unfair. That is what a spinster is. And I guess at this point, me and you are definitely spinsters. I'm pushing 40 here. Still have no kids,
married.
but I am married. So, I mean, I guess I'm half a spinster.
Yeah. Spinster light.
Spinster light. Well, yeah, both of us, I guess.
It would be, the shirt would be like a checkbox married and then a checkbox children, and it would just be the married part. No kids.
You also kept your maiden name, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, I kept my maiden name. So when you check off that box that says like Ms., Mrs., Miss, which one do you usually check off?
Ms. usually.
Yeah.
You do? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think for a while it was Miss, but I feel like Miss is just kind of like when you're young and you don't have a partner yet, like, you know,
it's
Miss.
the maiden.
Right. But yeah, no,
you want everybody to know you've had sex.
I want to be taken seriously, damn it. I'm gonna take off an S, add a period at the end.
That's right.
So yeah, Ms., I guess, is more appropriate for an older married woman, but maybe
it's the like safe choice for people you're writing to that you don't really know.
Yeah.
There was a guy at my job when I used to work at PetSmart, and he would call everyone madam. And I thought that was so cute. He reminded me of like the kind of guy that goes to a Ren fair, you know?
I love that.
But he was so sweet, and I kind of liked being called madam. And he said some people get so, because ma'am is a big thing down here, right? Everybody's ma'am or sir. And he said some people don't like it because they're either too young or they are older, but they don't want to be that age. And he said ma'am has always been kind of like, or madam has always been a safe blanket term.
Right.
I love that.
I feel like madam is just like a woman that's got a lot of money or like well off or just a little bougie on the bougier side. Yeah.
Oh, you today, madam? I'm like, I'm good. How are you?
All right. So we're going to dive right into the books. So according to Alice, it is forbidden for Owens women and Vincent to marry. But they do regardless. They all make up their own loopholes and rules. They fake their own deaths, no rings, no witnesses, no living together. They all try and outsmart the, quote, curse. I guess you could say it's a spinster's curse.
Yeah.
But
no marriage.
But strange though, because Maria, she had a child.
So we'll talk about that. We'll get into her. I tried to add all the women that are considered, I guess, spinsters. Like, would Sally be a spinster? Because she keeps getting married, but they keep she's
Wait a
widow.
Hold on. But is being a spinster really the curse here? Because if we flip the switch here, the only people who actually die are the ones that get married and have the kids. Because Francis and Jet don't have kids, but they're spinsters, so they're fine, in essence. Like, the curse ain't touching them. But Sally and Jillian's mother dies. She dies along with her husband. She's got kids. Who else dies? Susanna and Dr. Burke Owens die. Mm-hmm. They have kids. It's weird to me that
Rebecca dies.
All the ones who have the kids are the ones actually cursed. They're not the ones, they're the ones dying.
I see what you're doing.
See what I'm doing?
It's not the getting married, it's the having the kids part. That's the curse.
The kids part, that's the curse. I think there's a common denominator here.
That's
I'm
so
just
funny.
just saying.
That's so funny.
I don't condemn anybody that has children. I love kids.
Hmm.
I'll be the
You're
cool
a nanny, for
auntie.
God's sake.
I'm a nanny. I'll be the cool auntie, godmother any day. I just don't want to fucking own them.
No.
Just don't want to own
Yeah. You
them.
literally say we are having a child. Like that's your possession. I don't want
Yes,
that.
right. No, I'm good with that. And I don't condemn any of my friends that have children, but I do feel like a sense of whenever one of my friends does have a kid or have a child, and let's not call it a kid, a child, I do feel like there is kind of at that point not a miscommunication, but like obviously, you can no longer relate to them completely
Hmm.
because they have that whole other part of their lives that now they're a mother. And like we've been nannies, we know what it's like to help raise a child, but in essence, we'll never know what it's like to really have one of our own.
You gotta love that little shit unconditionally.
Yeah,
Nope.
yeah. So I feel like there's like kind of like a disconnect once a friend has a child.
Hmm.
We don't really connect, or we're not really on that same level anymore.
Different chapters.
Very different. All my friends that do have kids, it's like I see how much it takes to raise a child, and I see their frustrations sometimes, and I'm just like, I feel really bad. And then at the same time, I'm like, I'm really glad I don't have fucking kids.
I'm just blown away every single time. Like when parents tell me these crazy stories and somehow these children are not in boarding school, I'm like, y'all have the hardest job. God dang. So we applaud the parents because nope. Okay, I know my limitations. I am not that strong of a person.
It's a whole other playing field that I just don't have. I don't think I have the energy for it, especially not at this age. I guess I am a spinster at this point. I'm just like, can't be
Half
bothered.
spinster.
Can't be bothered. So we're going to get into, this is the Book of Magic. This is on page 40. To do their best to trick the curse, Jillian and Ben had wed simply and quietly at the courthouse, and Jillian refused to have their marriage officially recorded. Whether or not they were legally married was up for debate. Certainly, Jillian refused to wear a ring. They lived in a two-family house in Central Square where Jillian resided on the ground floor while Ben took the upstairs apartment. Whenever he asked why they must live separately, neither earned much of a salary. Ben was a science teacher at Cambridge Ridge and Latin School, and MIT didn't pay lab technicians a fortune. And clearly it would have made more sense to live in one apartment and rent out the other, because Jillian was a lab technician. Jillian asserted that too much togetherness was certain to ruin a relationship, especially in the Owens family, and that was on Book of Magic, page 40.
And that is just an example of how they think they can outsmart the curse. Even I feel like Vincent's the only one who, if this is a curse and not just death, from old age or whatever, because in this last book, his partner is deceased. But in order for them, Vincent and William, to have a full life, he had to fake his own death and trick the curse somehow,
Question, do you think we never actually see what happens to Jillian after Book of Magic, right? Because Book of Magic, she finally settles down, she has a child. If we're going off the theory that only the people who've had the children croak.
But they had the kid after the curse was broken.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Okay. So then, yeah, I guess they did dodge that bullet, but
she was the smart one. She's like, I'll wait. I'll wait this out.
I'm going to wait till somebody breaks this.
Yeah.
Somebody else, because I don't have the energy for it. All right. So we're going to talk about Hannah right now. So as you know, Hannah is Maria Owens's adopted mother. So Hannah Owens lives apart from the delusions and bad intentions of men, as deep in the forest as possible, in a small cottage hidden by vines. She had it built by a local carpenter, a fellow no one would hire due to a deformity at birth, and that was on page 9. So again, it's showing spinsters as people who kind of shut them off, I guess, from society because of how they're portrayed or how they're looked at. So pages 9 through 10, the path to her door was made of uneven blue stones hidden by shrubs, so much the better for the difficult going provided protection from prying eyes, and still women from town and from the neighboring farms managed to find their way when the need arose, setting the brass bell to ringing when they knocked on the door. But it's interesting how people always go to them when they need something.
But so isolated and hidden away. And that was her choosing. I don't think she's shunned from the town, but the selfish reasons that bring people coming knocking at her door.
Wasn't Hannah persecuted before?
She was on trial for stuff, I thought. And then after after that. She was like, bye.
Yeah. So, I mean, I could see why she would want to leave town and not, I guess, in the spotlight or center of attention or around society, basically. So, even if she did choose to go out there herself, I'm pretty sure she probably felt the pressure from society to like not be involved in all that societal conformity. I would have been like, peace. Pages 20 to 21. To study love with an expert is a great gift, and yet Maria wondered why, with access to so much power and magic, Hannah had spent her life alone, without love. What makes you think I have? Hannah didn't look the girl in the eye when she spoke, perhaps for fear of what the sight would allow Maria to intuit, things that were best kept private. There are secrets that must be held close, and most of these have to do with the wounding of the human heart, for sorrow spoken aloud is sorrow lived through twice. All the same, Maria didn't let her questions go unanswered, and now she was even more curious. Haven't you? I've seen no man come near. Did you think I had no life before you came along? Isn't that what Aunt Isabel said to Frances too?
It is, yep.
Shit. This notion only caused Maria's interest to peak. She pondered that statement, her mouth pursed, deep in thought.
So do you want to talk about Hannah a little more and what she went through before and being betrayed by like a man? Like, it's usually because you've had some kind of trauma with a man that you're like, nope, I'm good. I'm good just being by myself.
Yeah, was it the man that she was with that kind of, I guess, turned her in for witchcraft or whatever it was? I don't remember I remember she was like persecuted once before she moved out to the woods, but I don't remember the details of it.
I don't remember either. I think it was a young boy, like a butler boy from one of the castles, the estates, and he earned her trust and he betrayed her and said that she had a tail growing. Yeah. So they brought her in for questioning.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, again, going back to being betrayed by a man, I could see why some women are just like, I don't need to even be bothered with it anymore. Like, it's just it's more a headache than what it's worth.
And a lot of these, I'm noticing the spinsters, like the Isabel and Hannah and Aunt Franny and Aunt Jet. Yes, spinsters, but then they have kids like dropped off on their doorsteps.
Yeah.
They don't have a choice.
I mean, well, Hannah, she kind of sought Maria out. She found her in the field, right?
But didn't Rebecca put her out there because she knew that there was a witch that lived close by that would take care of her and show her the ways?
Was that the reason that she put her out in the field? Or I thought she was just like, she just wanted nothing to do with motherhood, and she was just like, I guess the Fae will take her. I was under the impression that she was more of like, she was trying to make Maria more of like a changeling kind of deal. Like, you know how back in the day they would put the babies out as fairy offerings and then the fairies would take care of the child as one of their own?
Well, Maria is Rebecca and Robbie's baby, and Rebecca was married to what's his face,
Tom Laughlin.
Laughlin, and she had hidden the pregnancy the whole time. So when baby was born, she birthed baby. She couldn't bring the baby home. It wasn't Tom's.
Right. Yeah, that's right. Maybe she did put it out in that field with the intention of Maria or with Hannah specifically finding her, or maybe she was just put it out into the field and was like hoping for the best, like somebody somewhere will find it, or the fairies will take her away, or like the fucking goblins from Labyrinth.
Oh yeah. I really think she knew Hannah would take care of the situation.
Okay.
And then she came back looking for her kid, basically wanting to see if she was raised right.
Yeah, like what the fuck is that about? Like,
you can't have your cake and eat it too.
Yeah, you can't. You have no right at that point. Like, you discarded your child like it was nothing.
But Hannah took it like a champ.
Yeah, Hannah was like, I could take this bitch. Like, Rebecca didn't really have the powers that Hannah had. We're gonna talk a little bit. Did you have anything else to say about Hannah?
No, I think we can move on to Maria. And there's no direct quotes from any of the books that says she is a spinster, but she continuously subverts. Is that the right word? She refuses to marry Samuel, even after everything he's done, because one fuckboy messed her up again. Like, trauma from this one man. John Hathorne abandoned her, and the curse, right, wasn't even a thing until she was on the gallows.
And even when she was on the gallows, Samuel still pined for her up until, I guess, what would have been her death, but like she jumped and the thing snapped, but all thanks to fucking Samuel.
Yeah.
Right? She survived because of Samuel, not because of magic, how they portray it in the movie, but like Samuel literally took a piece of rope that was worn from salt in the sea and everything, and he's like, I know this shit's gonna break. And it did. And, I'm not saying like she owes him anything. This man fucking saved your life.
I know.
He's been doing everything for you up until now, and you're still hung up on this asshole, and you're gonna stand on the gallows and curse all your generations to come because of that one douche. All
Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
fuck off.
And she keeps playing like, oh, she's so wishy-washy because she's like, no, I can't be with you. But then she's like, I don't know what the passage is like. She crawled into bed and they learned about each other again. I don't know. But like, you can't keep climbing into this man's bed if the answer is no.
Right? Yeah. Oh man, bitches be crazy.
Bitches be crazy.
Oh god,
Yeah,
she's
so
stressing me out.
I think if Samuel would have stayed away for his better judgment, like she would have stayed unwed.
Yeah, that's right. She ended up marrying him, right? At the
Yeah.
end. Yeah, so I guess we can't necessarily call Maria a spinster because she's done it all. She's gotten married, she's had kids, multiple kids, right? She had another one after Faith.
Yeah, I think she, yeah.
Yeah, so I guess we can't call her a spinster, but it looked like she had a happy life after that. So I don't think my theory doesn't check out there as far as like the curse killing people with the kids, because it seemed like she had a full life.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
It's just cool to pinpoint all of the like the lineage of women and see how similar their stories are. Hers is very much Sally's. Like they have the kids, they don't want to love, but they fall in love. Ugh, God, such a headache.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess my theory doesn't check out with Sally either, because Sally, she's the protagonist. She's living through all of this shit, even through like when the curse wasn't broken yet. And she had the kids. She got married, but I
3
guess
marriages.
but I guess it just took her husband and was like, "You're fine. We don't need to take you to." All right. So Aunt Isabel, this is from Rules of Magic. This is on page 21. So Isabel Owens was in the kitchen, her back to them as she puttered about. She was a formidable woman. Her frame might be small, but her attitude was commanding. Her white hair was pinned up haphazardly, and yet despite her age, her complexion was perfect. She had worn black every day of her life, and she did so today. Franny stared until their aunt suddenly turned in her direction. Then Franny impulsively ducked down behind a potted plant, her heart pounding against her chest. Vincent and Jet followed suit, sinking down beside their sister, holding their hands over their mouths so as not to explode with laughter. They'd never seen Franny so flustered, which is interesting because when Jillian and Sally came into the aunts' lives when the aunts were older, Franny was considered the mean aunt. So for Franny to, I guess, do you think Franny was just emulating Aunt Isabel and growing up with her kind of like stoic, tough love kind of deal?
Yeah, Isabel to me has a little more humor in her.
Yeah.
She's a little more inviting. And that could just be because Franny was married for a little while and lost her husband quite recently, almost the same week as when the girls show up, at least in the books. He passes away, the aunts are sitting on the porch, and here come the girls,
Yeah.
She's mourning his death, and then all of a sudden she has, she's swearing never to love again, but then she eventually opens her heart to these little girls.
Yeah, I think they did soften her up a little bit. I am curious to know what Aunt Isabel's life was before taking the aunts in, because as she told Franny, do you think I didn't have life before Magnolia Street? Like, I hope Alice writes a book about Aunt Isabel. I'm so fascinated about this woman. I want to know what that life was. And was that an Easter egg? Did Alice put that line in there to kind of like hint at us that like leaving it open-ended? Just saying, one day maybe I'll write a book about her too.
I wish she didn't do that.
I know.
I kind of wish she didn't do that.
But
so I was trying to look up the actress that I picture as Isabel, and her name is Zoe Wanamaker, and she was in Harry Potter. She has those very cat-like eyes, and she has like the short hair. She just has this very like stoic, stern, but I think she's so pretty. She looks like a little fae person.
She gives me like what's the teacher's name from Magic School Bus?
Miss Frizzle.
Yeah,
she does.
Vibes.
Yeah. Yeah.
She's cute though. All right, so on page 24, this says Aunt Isabel was surprisingly agreeable. Much to their delight, it turned out she couldn't care less about bad behavior. Diet and sleeping habits meant nothing to her. Candy for breakfast, if that's what they desired. Soda pop all through the day. They could stay up until dawn if they wished and sleep until noon. They weren't forced to tidy their rooms or pick up after themselves. Do as you please, she told the siblings, as long as you harm no one.
Even though these kids are going there to learn, they're going there to learn from her. She's not there to babysit you. This is Hogwarts. You know
what it's kind of like? It's like, when you graduate high school and you go into college, the first time you like sit in a classroom, you raise your hand to go to the bathroom and the professor's like, why are you raising your hand?
Yeah,
Just go.
fucking go.
And you're like, I can do that? I'm an adult now?
Yeah.
I'm in charge of myself now? What? This is new. Like,
Exactly.
I remember feeling that when I first went to college, like right out of high school, and I was like, whoa, this is bananas. Like, but
I
then it's
really,
also a little scary because you're like, shit, I'm in charge of myself now. Like,
yeah,
I
you got to
can't fuck
feed
up.
yourself, make sure you got clean clothes, you know?
Right. Yeah.
Ugh.
It's a whole other ball game.
I kind of
Anyway.
applaud her for that. Like, I'm
Mhm.
here to teach you something that could elevate your life. But
Yes.
you have to take care of your basics. You are an independent, autonomous human. Take care of
Yeah.
yourself.
Yeah. And I like how that she was kind of like, in essence, without saying it straightforward, like she was preaching, she was encouraging free will.
Yeah.
You
I
make
love
your
that.
choices. If you fuck up, that's your fuck up.
Right. Yeah.
Own
And
it.
especially with Vincent going sleeping around with that married woman, Isabel knows she's keeping her mouth shut because there are going to be consequences he's going to have to deal with on his own.
Yes, and he did.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, he did. Okay, so on page 25, local people might not like the Owens family. They might cross to the other side of the street when they saw Isabel on her way to the market with a black umbrella held overhead to ward off the sun. But as soon as they were in need, they battled the thorn bushes and vines to reach the porch and ring the bell, knowing they were welcome when the porch light was turned on.
There it is.
I find it very commendable that these Owens women, despite being ostracized by the entire community, including other women, they were still, once that porch light was on, it was all business, and they were still open to helping these women that were probably assholes to them otherwise.
When a
You
friend
know?
asks for help, you help them.
But they're not friends. That's what I'm saying. They're frenemies. They're all
Yeah.
frenemies in that town. Page 60. This says Franny pursed her lips. She had always been a practical girl and was one still. I know there's no such thing as what you say we are. It's a fairy tale, a compilation of people's groundless fears. I thought that too when I first came here. Isabel sat in an old lawn chair. You didn't grow up here? Franny asked, surprised to learn that her aunt had a history that predated Magnolia Street. Did you think I had no other life? That I was born between the rows of lettuce and was an old woman from the day I could walk? Once upon a time, I was young and beautiful, but that is the fairy tale, because it all passes in the blink of an eye. I lived in Boston, under lock and key, not unlike April. I didn't know who I was until I came here to visit my aunts and learn the rules. Franny felt herself flush. What if I don't wish to be what I am? Then you will face a life of unhappiness. Did you accept it? Franny asked. She could see the regret in Isabel's expression. There had definitely been a before in her life. Not fully, but I grew to enjoy it. I guess Isabel went through those same struggles to coming to terms with who she is.
Yeah,
sounds like.
absolutely. That's why I think she left everything to Franny because they were so similar. And I wanted to touch on two things. The line it says, it's a fairy tale, a compilation of people's groundless fears. And I think it was the last episode where you and I were talking about the tale that Aunt Franny is weaving at the beginning of the story. To the best of her knowledge, Maria jumped from the platform and survived.
Yeah.
And we were saying like it's like a game of telephone. And the other
Yeah.
thing was, she said, I didn't know who I was until I came here to live with my aunts. So there were
Ah.
multiple aunts there when she was younger.
Oh, there were other aunts. So who are the other
Interesting.
aunts? That
Who are
is
these other aunts?
very interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Again,
Yeah.
I would love to see a friggin' backstory on Isabel. I
Yeah.
think that would be freaking fascinating. She was under lock and key in Boston.
Not unlike April.
So
Strict parents.
yeah, I'm like, who the fuck are her parents too? You know?
Mhm. Piggybacking right off of that into Franny, because she would be
Yeah.
the next in line, right?
Yep, and this is still from Rules of Magic, and this is on page 364. So this says, that left Sally and Aunt Frances standing on the path. Do you live here all alone? Sally asked. Of course not. Your Aunt Jet is here. You don't have a husband? I did, once. Sally stared at her aunt. I'm sorry, she said. Franny stared back, a bit shaken at having been asked about Halen. Hay would have been so much better with children. If they had ever had their own, she'd be a grandmother by now. She would be different then, softer, not so quick to frighten small children.
Oh, yeah, she'd be a softy grandma because Halen was such a caregiver to everybody as a doctor. You know, his empathy is through the roof.
Yeah, but opposites attract, right? You need one strict parent and one parent that's like, do whatever the fuck you want.
Yeah.
Balance, right?
So in the movie, Franny Stocker Channing does mention her poor Ethan. It doesn't specify if it was like a former husband, former boyfriend, brother. What about my poor Ethan? You know, like never says. But she is also really flirtatious with Charlie, whoever Charlie is in town, among others. She's, waving at the town. She's like, hello, boys. We see
Uh-huh.
at the very beginning when young Sally and Jillian show up on Magnolia Street, how Franny's confidence suggests that she is the master of her domain. So I
Mm.
think in movie Franny, she likes having the power. I think Franny has male callers,
Oh,
gentlemen callers,
for sure.
and she just likes to kick them out in the morning, like, you're not staying for breakfast, bye-bye.
Do you think poor Ethan, his whole fate was the catalyst for her, I guess, coming into her own as that kind of woman? One
He
and done?
obviously stands out in her mind.
Right. Like, I feel like she was giving that relationship with Ethan her everything, and I feel like she maybe thought that was the one, right?
Hmm.
And maybe the curse got him, and then that kind of hardened her up to everybody else. So now I feel like all the guys after that is probably like one and done. Like, again, like kick them out in the
And
morning.
maybe that is her empathizing with them. Like, I need to have companionship and physical touch, but I'm not going to marry any of these guys because I don't want them to die. I like these guys. Hey, Charlie,
Hey, Charlie.
looking good.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes, 100%. I could totally see that.
Yeah.
So let's talk about Jet. So after losing Levi, teenage Jet in Rules of Magic grieved like a widow, but she never wed. I guess that trauma just hit her so hard, and it kind of affected her for the rest of her life into
Right.
adulthood.
Mhm.
And up until she died too, right? Like she kind of befriended the Reverend to, I guess, feel closer to Levi.
And she had her kind of side piece happening,
Uh-huh.
but it was never, I guess, what she felt with Levi, because she even was buried next to Levi, and this poor
Right.
man, Raphael.
Was
I
it
think it's
Raphael?
Raphael.
Yeah, I think Raphael, yeah.
She had probably exactly what Franny is doing. She didn't want to lose Raphael, so she never fully opened her heart.
She needs some molasses to open up her heart.
Yeah. So Jet in the movie, played by Diane Weiss, Jet and Franny are depicted as the solitary women on the outskirts of society, though Jet tries to charm the townsfolk like on their walks. She wants to be a part of the community. She's bubbly. She's kind of forced into spinsterhood, but also choosing to stay there.
And in the movie, we don't hear about any of Jet's, I guess, romantic affairs. I mean, with Franny, we know about her poor Ethan. We know she's tried to be with men. But as far as Jet goes, she doesn't ever talk about any of her relationships in the film. So we don't really know what her backstory is like as far as men and romance or even trying to bear children goes. We don't know any of that for the film.
If we want to play devil's advocate or play funsies, like next time we watch, we'll have to look at their hands, because I know they wear quite a few different rings.
Do
And
they?
are those all the rings from their past husbands?
Ooh, shit.
Yeah.
I never even thought about. Yeah, we should go ring spotting.
Ring spotting.
For the
Mhm.
odds.
Oh, it's just so much more evident with Franny that she is the flirtatious one. And when Franny sees her sister, waving, saying hello, she says, just give it up. Which is weird, because she was just doing the same thing, but just in a different color, I guess.
But if you notice what Jet says after that, I don't think Jet is doing it to be nice. I think she's doing it because she knows it bothers everybody around her, because she's like, never.
Or do you think it just bothers Franny?
I mean, no, it obviously bothers Franny.
Yeah, she's just trying to get under her sister's skin.
Well, I don't even think it's that. I think she's trying to get under the skin of the townspeople because she know it makes them so uncomfortable, and I think she revels in that discomfort.
I don't think she's like that.
Oh, 100%. Why would she say never?
I don't know. Like, she's like, I'm not giving up on this town.
I don't even think it's that. Like, I think, like, when you have a frenemy or like somebody at the office or at work or in your family even that, like, you see them in person and like you could be callous to them, but you kill them with kindness because you know it gets under their skin.
Okay. All right.
That's how I see it.
All
Anyway.
right.
So Jillian in Practical Magic on page 122. This says, when she came home from Del Vecchio's on the night she met Ben, she took a vow never to marry again. She locked herself in the bathroom and lit a black candle and tried to remember some of the aunt's incantations. When she could not, she repeated single forever 3 times, and that seemed to have done the trick because she keeps refusing him, in spite of how she feels inside. Go away, she tells Ben whenever he calls. Kind of like how she said to Jimmy in the movie, go away. Go away.
Yeah.
She doesn't think about the way he looks or about the feel of the calluses on his fingers, the ones caused by practicing knots for his magic art nearly every day. Find someone who will make you happy.
I think she too would have been fine just being the bachelorette. And it's funny how we have both of those words, spinster and bachelorette.
Mhm.
And I wonder, like, is it just age that separates the two?
I don't know.
I don't
I
either.
think maybe it's promiscuity. Maybe a
But you
bachelorette.
can be all buttoned up, but you can be a freak in the sheets.
Well, exact, 100%. 100%. But I think that's where the defined line is. Because if we think of the term spinster, it's an old, washed up old maid who wants nothing to do with men, doesn't want children, she's old, dried up, and crusty, right? But if we think of a bachelorette, if we think of what that term means, it's more of like Jillian, like, I'm gonna sleep with whoever I want. I don't give a fuck who says what about it.
Yeah.
That's more of a bachelorette. I feel like
So
that's
is Granny a bachelorette then?
maybe.
Because she is not dried up. That a fact.
Maybe, I don't know.
I don't know.
But it's something to definitely ponder.
Yeah. Okay. I like your point there.
Yeah. So in the movie, talking about Jillian still, we see her at the end of the film dressed more conservatively, working away happily in the garden with the aunts, and this gives us the impression of history kind of repeating itself for the time being anyway. Jillian is content with the life she has seen her aunts live, and she kind of is totally giving auntie vibes at the end of the
Absolutely.
film. She's got like a button-up Victorian outfit on, a little hat, holding her beets or
Yeah.
radishes. She's aunting it up for sure.
It definitely is. They're trying to give the impression like she's fine without a man. And I love that ending for her.
I do
That would
love
have
that.
been just fine.
Especially what she went through to get to that point. Like we saw her whole character arc, right? We saw what all the hoops she had to jump through just to rest at that place where she's happy with herself. She doesn't need a man. She doesn't need to fit into society's standards. I forgot where I was going with that.
It's okay.
But yeah, I guess all the trauma, kind of like Maria in a sense, if you get burnt bad enough by one person, that's enough to make you be like, well, fuck it. I don't even want to be bothered with it anymore. Like I'm
Absolutely.
fine by myself.
Yeah. And her character arc, like you were saying, even though Sally does fling the line at her like, I, me, my, when Jillian was younger and her bachelorette's vibes were much stronger, it was all about Jillian. But we see through the movie that she opens up to the little one. She wants to take care of the little one. She wants to make sure that her sister isn't arrested, that she doesn't lose their daughter. She wants to make sure that the aunts love her, you know, and that the aunts aren't mad at her for just leaving.
The fact that back in the day, 22 was considered the age of a spinster, like I still don't know who the fuck I am. Well, I know who I am now as a person, but like at 22, I didn't know fucking shit about myself. Like, and
No.
you're expected to have children already at that age? Like, it just
Yeesh.
makes no sense to me.
Yeah. Do we agree that possibly Jillian would have turned out just like the aunts?
I
Or
could
do
see
you
that.
think she is red hot fire poker and would have had a man tried to marry again?
Did she try to marry Jimmy? And she didn't try to marry Jimmy in the movie.
I don't think
Right?
so.
I don't even
so.
think they alluded to that she wanted to marry him. I think she was just having some fun.
Because in the
Um,
book she is married, but in the movie, I know they say she goes through guys, but it doesn't say she's been married.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe she's just happy, just living that bachelorette lifestyle.
Good for her.
Yeah. And she definitely doesn't need a man by the end of the film. She seems happy as a peach, just picking her beats in her Victorian getup and just watching Sally and being happy for her sister and the love that her sister finds at the end of the film. I think she's just really just lit up by seeing everybody else around her so happy and, you know, not having to deal with her exorcism bullshit anymore.
She does lay that line out though of what wouldn't I do for the right guy? So
Right.
maybe that door's still open.
Playing the field. She's living that bachelorette lifestyle. Good for her.
So we touched a little bit about Sally, but do you want to talk about her? Whether I don't know, because she has kids, is she considered a
All right.
spinster? Because she declares at an early age that she doesn't want to fall in love. So she doesn't have a broken heart. She doesn't want to be like Irene scratching at the back door. So she wants to be a spinster when she's younger.
Yeah, it seems like she is going toward, or she's like, that lifestyle seems more appealing to her than falling in love and possibly having her heart broken.
Because I think she sees her aunts being totally fine, independent of a
Right.
man.
Yeah. Yeah, and I seeing that fucking whole Irene debacle just sealed the deal for her. She's like, all right, I don't need love. It's fine.
Yeah, because that's not the first woman to come to the back door
Right.
looking for some help.
Right. But it's the first one maybe that she saw maybe the bird get hurt like the way that it did. And like
Yeah.
she saw that by her loving someone could hurt something like that to the point of like killing an innocent animal.
Yeah.
I'm sure that traumatized her, like for sure.
Yeah, that kind of quote unquote passion is connected with some kind of violence. And I think to her, that's a no. That's a hard no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hard boundary there for her.
Yeah.
Your question though, would she be considered a spinster? Would she still be considered a spinster because she was put under a love spell?
And it wasn't her free will.
Right, she fell in love because of the love spell. So do you think she would have been a spinster if it had not been for the love spell?
I don't know, because her Amas Viditas came true. There was a person out there with those qualities.
Right.
I feel like her intention, she says, I want this because I don't want to die of a broken heart, meaning I want the impossible because I don't want to get married and fall in love. She had no clue that there was a Gary out there. Freaking Gary.
Right. Yeah.
Gerper
Hurler. So maybe she had every intention of living that spinster life, but maybe just like that one little glimmer of hope or like that childlike sense of wonder, because she was a child when she did that spell. Maybe it's just like her last little plea to the universe, like, if he does exist, this is what I want. Like, you know, like a Christmas wish to Santa Claus. She was like, all right, well, I don't really want to fall in love, but this would be nice.
If I have to.
Right, yeah, exactly. And she wasn't really expecting it, but, you know, the universe had its plan for her, and I guess she wasn't meant to be a spinster. She was meant to actually fall in love.
Three times, apparently.
3 times in the book anyway.
Ay, ay. So, long before the industrial age, quote, the art and calling of being a spinster denoted girls and women who spun wool. Go check out the episode just before this, all about spinning fiber. According to the online etymology dictionary, spinning was, quote, commonly done by unmarried women, hence the word came to denote. An unmarried woman in legal documents from the 1600s to the early 1900s, and by 1719 was being used generically for women still unmarried and beyond the usual age for it. As a denotation for unmarried women in a legal context, the term dates back to at least 1699.
Wow.
And was commonly used in banns of marriage of the Church of England, where the prospective bride was described as a spinster of this parish. The Oxford English Dictionary tags spinster, meaning unmarried woman, typically an older woman beyond the age for marriage, as derogatory, and a good example of the way in which a word acquires strong connections to the extent that it can no longer be used in its natural sense. So we've used it in this derogatory way for so long, it doesn't mean anything what it used to mean.
But does it not, though? Because when we still call somebody a spinster, we're still referring to them as unmarried women with no children.
But before, what you and I talked about, a spinster was somebody who spun wool or flax, right? But now it means old, crusty, dried up, like you said.
Crusty. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. In 1828 and 1913, editions of Merriam-Webster's dictionary define spinster in 2 ways. Number 1, a woman who spins or whose occupation is to spin. And number 2, under law, an unmarried or single woman. By the 1800s, the term had evolved to include women who chose not to marry. During the century, middle-class spinsters, as well as their married peers, took ideals of love and marriage very seriously, and spinsterhood was indeed often a consequence of their adherence to those ideals. They remained unmarried not because of the individual shortcomings, but because they didn't find the one, quote, who could be all things to her heart.
That's where I find it unfair to call a woman a spinster, because, like, you don't know what that woman's intention is. Like, a spinster, I guess, is just a picky woman who knows what she wants and isn't going to settle for anything less.
Yes.
She's not one of the sheeple, all right? She's not just going to, like, blindly just say yes to a proposal for the first guy that comes along, the first Joe Schmo with a ring. She actually knows what she wants, and she knows what she doesn't want.
She knows herself.
She knows herself, and again, that's, I think, why spinsters are associated, or they're synonymous with witches, because, again, going back to the woman in total control of herself, a woman that knows what she wants is deemed a witch. Why would I know what I want? I have a smaller brain than a man.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
Yeah, I agree. Knowing yourself, Trusting your gut is looked down upon because, like, why should we have any control over our bodies? One 19th century editorial in the fashion publication Peterson's Magazine encouraged women to remain choosy in selecting a mate,
There you go.
even at the price of never marrying. The editorial, titled "Honorable Often to Be an Old Maid," advised women, marry for a home, marry to escape the ridicule of being called an old maid. How dare you? Then pervert the most sacred institution of the Almighty by becoming a wife of a man for whom you can feel no emotions of love or respect even. So they're saying don't dishonor the sacredness of marriage by settling, just what you said.
Yeah, I don't think anybody should. But unfortunately, we still see that so much in today's day and age. Like, how many friends have you had that they married the wrong guy just because they wanted to be married and have kids and, like,
Oh, yeah.
society standards? And I'm just like, I stand by, and I'm like, it's none of my business. But at the same time, I'm like, you're kind of gonna fuck up your life.
Yeah.
And then it's often those people that are the most unhappy and come crying to you about everything, and you're just like, it's not my place. It's not my place, but
Yeah.
I told you.
Yeah, sometimes I'm like, I'm there for the wedding, I'll be there for the divorce, and I'm down for the next wedding, whatever you need, And, like, they'll get it right on the next time.
What will they? I don't see.
There was somebody who told me you marry the first time for money and the second time for love. Can you imagine?
What?
Yeah.
I feel like that would be the other way around, because when you're young and dumb, your head is in the clouds. You're thinking of love as like this fairy tale, right? And then when you actually get married, you see the reality of it. I feel like it's the second time around that you marry for the money, because you get smarter at that point.
But wouldn't the second time around, you know what you like and you know what you deserve? You're more choosy.
And you deserve more money. So the second time you marry for the money.
Yeah.
So the Oxford American English Dictionary defines spinster as, quote, an unmarried woman, typically an older woman beyond the usual age for marriage. It adds, quote, in modern everyday English, however, spinster cannot be used to mean simply unmarried woman. As such, it is a derogatory term referring or alluding to a stereotype of an older woman who is unmarried, childless, prissy, and repressed, end quote. Currently, Merriam-Webster's dictionary defines the, quote, unmarried woman sense of the term in three ways. Number one, an archaic usage meaning, quote, an unmarried woman of gentle family, end quote. Number two, a meaning related to one, but not tagged as archaic, quote, an unmarried woman, and especially one past the common age for marrying. And three, a woman who seems unlikely to marry. So dictionary.com describes the woman still unmarried beyond the usual age of marrying sense of the term as disparaging and offensive. A usage note goes on to say that this sense is perceived as insulting and implies negative qualities such as being fussy or undesirable. Also included is a sense of the word used specifically in a legal context, quote, a woman who has never married, end quote. Wordreference.com describes the woman still unmarried sense of a spinster as dated. Yeah, I guess, yeah, it is dated because the term originated so long ago, but I mean, we do still use it to poke fun at those people who, are still not married and have no children.
I wonder what the more modern way, like, how would you describe somebody like that now?
I don't know, because I'm probably going to get some shit for saying this, but I hope my mom doesn't listen to this episode because she'll probably yell at me for saying this. We have a couple cousins in the family, and they're both sisters, and they both still live together. And neither one of them married, neither one of them had any children. And they were always referred to as the spinsters of the family.
Mm-hmm.
And I was always like, as a kid, I was like, what's a spinster? Like, I never fucking knew what it was.
Yeah.
And I think one day, like, my mom might have told me what it meant. Oh, okay.
But now I think, like, how can we reframe this? Because when we went through the priestess training, you know how we talk about Maiden Mother Crone.
Yeah.
Oh man, I'm going to have to dig it up. I'm going to have to find those notes because I think there were like two other categories: your queen stage, your warrior stage, and then your crone stage, something like that. And I was like, I fucking love that. You are choosing to be an independent person. You are the queen of your domicile. You're, a warrior is somebody who maybe takes it under their wing to help raise others that are not their own. Right. And I just love that. So instead of like spinster, be like, you're in your queen stage, girl.
I have a question though. So you know how the triple goddess is Maiden, Mother, Crone. Obviously, we're growing past our maiden stage, right? We're into the mother stage now. But what if we are not mothers? So do you use queen or warrior in lieu of the term mother in the
Yeah.
Triplicon.
I should go find those notes.
Yeah, instead of mother, then I guess we would be considered in our queen or warrior stage since we don't have our own children. But I
Yeah.
mean, like, I guess mother could be used for a woman whether or not they have their own children, because I feel like women all kind of have that nurturing, that motherly instinct. Even even if we don't have our own kids, like we still have that instinct in us, whether we want to admit it or not.
It's called empathy.
Empathy or maternal instincts.
Okay.
That's what maybe not every woman feels like they have maternal instincts, but I feel like it's just embedded into our DNA to a certain extent. Like even if you don't have kids, if you feel the need to take care of a plant or you feel the need to take care of an animal, I never felt the need or want to bear children, but like at a certain point I was like, I really do kind of crave taking care of something and wanting something to take care of. So I was like, I'll just get cats. It's fine.
Yeah.
I tried plants. That didn't work out. I killed every single one of them. But I was like, hopefully an animal will be different.
Yeah, something within us wants to help something else thrive, even if it's not a human. Human.
And I haven't killed my cats yet. So I guess I'm a good
That's
mom.
impossible. Those are your babies. They're so spoiled.
Yeah. And it is impossible to let a cat starve by accident because they do not shut the fuck up if they're hungry. I think that's where like I make the mistake because plants, they can't cry for food, so I just forget about them. Exactly. Continuing with the definition of the word spinster, so it says age is a crucial part of the definition according to Rob Lakoff's explanation in Language and Woman's Place. Quote, if someone is a spinster, by implication she is not eligible to marry. She has had her chance and been passed by. Hence a girl of 20 cannot be properly called a spinster. She still has a chance to be married. Yet other sources on terms describing a never married woman indicate that the term applies to a woman as soon as she is of legal age or age of majority, and then see bachelorette or single. And again, I think that's so freaking stupid that an age is even put on a woman's scoreboard
roster.
Like,
yeah,
like why does age even fucking matter? I mean, I get the biological clock thing is ticking, like you can only have a child up to a certain age, but like 22, really? Early 20s?
I know, that's a baby.
Stop rushing time here. And one more thing I do want to say is that I guess that's why in essence I became a nanny, because it kind of did fulfill that maternal instinct without necessarily having to have my own children.
Right. Yeah.
And Molly is friggin' my child. She's basically my child. I raised her since she was
said that. Yeah, numerous times, and you've been with her for many years.
She's basically my daughter at this point.
And she is really at that age that she you know, she's too cool for school, but she has learned from you for all these years.
Yeah.
That she has your traits and attributes. And I know, like, I wanted like the cooler, older kids that kind of, you know, sometimes take care of us. Like I was like, I'm gonna copy and paste because I thought they were so cool. And when I was talking to Melanie yesterday, the girls I nanny now are the one is going to college.
Oh my god.
Oh my gosh, and the other one is dating, and the one is driving, and it was so funny because, you know, as a nanny, your chauffeur, your cook, your cleaner, everything.
Yep.
And she was telling me that the older one has a gig now where she drives a little boy from point A to point B. And I texted her, and I was like, "You turned into me." She's like, "Yeah, I did. It's fun. The money's good." I was like, "I tell you what, it is good."
Yeah, it's pretty good. And part of me is like, well, I already know, just seeing Molly's track record from like 3 years old. She's always been into all the movies that I watched, the music that I listen to, like, and she kind of emulated me in that way. But I'm curious to see, like, when she gets to that like working age, I wonder if she's gonna be a nanny too because of how like she saw me watch her.
Maybe. Yeah.
So that's very interesting to think about. But you know what she said to me one day? She was like, you're kind of like my mom, but then like you're also kind of like you're like in between a mom and a big sister.
Yeah. You're an auntie.
I just thought that was really cute.
It is cute.
More on the definition of the word spinster. So the title spinster has been embraced by feminists like Sheila Jeffreys, whose book The Spinsters and Her Enemies from 1985 defines spinsters simply as women who have chosen to reject sexual relationships with men. In her 2015 book, Spinster, Making a Life of One's Own, Kate Bollock has written, quote, to me, the spinster is self-reliant and inscrutable. We think we know what the wife is up to and what the mother is up to, but the single woman is mysterious. I like that mystery. So the term is a useful way to hold on to the idea of autonomy that can get so easily lost inside of a marriage or motherhood. And in 2005, in England and Wales, the term was abolished in favor of just the term single for
Mhm.
the purpose of marriage registration. However, it is still often used when the banns of marriage are read by Church of England parish churches.
I think that's great. Just single. Single is
Right.
perfectly fine.
You don't need to be throwing around any offensive terms.
Yeah. Don't overcomplicate this.
Yeah.
Men, women, no more bachelorette. The show is just gonna be called Single.
Single. Single, maybe not ready to mingle. It's up to
Yeah.
me.
Yeah. So I popped up an image for you because I touched on earlier that during the priestess training, we went through one of the classes and she shared with us this reimagined moon cycle. So I want to talk about that just because we just talked about that. Sorry to lengthen this episode even more, but it's perfect for this. So I'll share this picture on our notes so you can see. But this was titled The 8 Phases of the Moon in a Month. And this is correlated with the 8 phases or archetypes of a woman and her blood passages. So we're going to start on the new moon or the dark moon, and we're going to go clockwise. So the new moon, and then we can pick these apart. She did include like more on each of these.
Okay.
So the new moon is, or the dark moon is associated with the ancestor or the spirit. This is the potential blood. The next is the waxing, the growing moon crescent, when this is about 25% full. This is the young maiden or infant. And then the first quarter, when it's 50% full, is kind of associated with the maiden. This is your first blood. The waxing gibbous, when it's 75% full. This one's associated with the lovers. So between maiden and mother, they have the lovers. When the moon is full, this is the mother moon. This is the creation blood. A waning gibbous is associated with the warrior or the healer, the changing blood, the menopausal stage, right? And then the third last quarter is the queen stage, is your last blood. You're finishing that menstrual, that menses. And then they have the waning crescent, or they also listed this as the balsamic, which is your Crone stage. And this is your wise blood stage. I thought that was so interesting to see those two or three extra archetypes thrown in there, because you and I don't fall into the mother. So we're in our lover stage. And then we skip mother and go right to warrior, I guess.
Right. So this isn't really the triple goddess anymore. This is the new and improved octogoddess.
The octogoddess. All right.
Can you please put that on a t-shirt?
The octogoddess.
The 8 phases of the woman. Like, yeah, that is so cool that they broke it up into more stages, because like maiden, mother, and crone, it's just so broad, like it's so vague. Like I like how this is way more specific to a woman's actual like multiple stages of her life, not just like kind of like just putting it under like an umbrella of just like 3 stages, you know.
Yeah, I agree, because there's so much more.
Right, there's so much more to us. We are more complex than society gives us credit for.
Yeah, I'm trying to just pick out, because we know a lot about the maiden, mother, and crone, so I'm trying to just pick out like the lovers, the warrior, healer, and the queen from these little passages. So let me do that. The healer, the warrior, they say, I call this phase changing blood. And in this phase, there are several ways to appreciate this blood mystery of women. We can consider the mystery from the perspective of the wounded warrior and the healer aspect and the threshold aspect. In this phase, we experience another passage of profound change as we try to find our balance between fluctuating menstrual cycles, shifting roles, and our own personal healing. Our identities are changing. And I know that this time after the mother stage is like, and your kids are out of the house, you're like, what do I do now? And refining yourself, refining who you are, what matters to you, and like healing those things, rediscovering those things that meant so much to you before you were a mother is hard.
Yeah.
Right? In the wounded warrior healer aspect, this blood mystery is more metaphorical. And they say, I add it here as a way to remind us to recognize the blood, sweat, and tears of the woman as she grows in her phase of life of being the teacher, healer, warrior, and being the ongoing mother of the family and career. In her warrior aspect, a woman may be fighting or championing for her family, children, or a cause. She may also be a warrior of self-growth, for this is the time in a woman's life where she is also coming to terms with healing her own wounds, both physically and emotionally from childhood, as well as being a healer and a nurturer of others. But in standing up for ourselves and fighting for our cause, we may face new battles that figuratively draw blood, leaving wounds and scars in our being. Thus, the blood mystery of this aspect is that finding the fluidity of the life force energy and transfusing ourselves with healing energy to heal our wounds. They say, I also call this blood mystery threshold blood to designate that phase in your life when we have 1 foot in our childbearing time and 1 foot in our non-reproductive time. We are straddling our mother aspect and our crone aspect and rocking back and forth. It is a time of fluctuation, and we learn to cope with irregular menstrual periods and readjust our body life cycles as they start to wane. As we enter premenopause, our ovaries release fewer eggs and we start skipping monthly bleeding, and our bleeding times are heavier and longer. This can trigger new emotional challenges as old memories of shame may arise, especially if we find ourselves in an embarrassing situation of sudden, heavy flow. These changes in our menstrual blood once again remind us to embrace the passage of womanhood in our cycles and to remember that she changes everything she touches, and everything she touches changes.
Okay.
What were you saying?
I was gonna say, I wonder if these like changes, like these like major threshold points in a woman's life associated with, I guess, her last blood and her first blood, do you think that is like kind of synonymous with like your Saturn return? Like every 30 years you kind of experience this like huge breakthrough, like, or huge turning point in your life. Like every 30 years it's like a huge shift. You shed the person you were once, the child self, and then you go into adult, you transition into adulthood. And it's kind of the same deal once I guess you've reached that menopausal state. You transition from the mother stage to your crone stage.
I know I did not feel like a grown-ass person until I was 30. So
Same.
from maiden to now considered mother, the mother age, and then from 30 to 60 makes total sense. You're in the crone stage when you're in your 60s, unless you feel more inclined to be in your queen stage, I guess.
Right. I also thought it was interesting how in between maiden and mother, they add lover. So like I guess the maiden is like, you're still kind of in your innocence. You're starting to become a woman, but not quite yet. And then once you're not that virginal child anymore, it switches over to lover. That I feel like that's the bachelorette stage mostly. Before you become a mother, you're playing the field.
Yeah.
Courting and like seeing what the prospects are with different lovers, and just I guess finding out what you really want in a partner.
Totally.
That's really cool that they added all those other stages, because yeah, life is so complex. I don't think you can narrow it down to just those 3 stages.
And I like how it's associated with the cycle of the moon. I think that was cool. So thank you for letting me share that real quick.
I love that. That's awesome. Yeah, really cool. I never heard about these other stages before, so
no longer spinster, you are a warrior motherfucking healing queen. Right?
That's right.
That's right.
We're going to get into a little bit of research now. So, a 2009 University of Missouri study of 32 women found that modern, quote, spinsters feel a social stigma attached to their status and a sense of both heightened visibility and invisibility. Heightened visibility came from feelings of exposure, and invisibility came from assumptions made by others. So I'm not sure what those assumptions are. I'm guessing maybe
that that person is undesirable, that person's too picky, that person can't conceive. Shit like that.
Yes, exactly. And none of that is any of anybody's fucking business.
Yeah.
Everybody
leave my body alone. Shut the fuck up. Stay in your lane.
Stay in your lane. We all have our own reasons for like why we don't want to be married, why we don't want to have kids. It's not always because you can't conceive. It's not always because you're undesirable. It's just like it's such a complex decision and a huge life decision on whether or not you want to get married or have kids. Like those are not small decisions, which is what society kind of makes it feel like. It's like, oh, just get married, just have kids. Like, oh, sure, are you gonna fucking raise them?
Right.
Are you gonna put dinner on the table every night? Like, it's it's not boiled down to a simple decision. Right. And it's not anybody's business, so everybody shut the fuck up.
And you know what gets flung back at that a lot is you're selfish.
Yeah.
And maybe I am. I love the relationship I have with my husband. I don't want that to change. And I know kids will change that. And I value him so much and just respect him so much. Like, I just want to keep things the way they are with us.
And you know what? When it comes down to it, society is actually never fucking happy. Never happy.
Because even when you
like,
have a kid, you're doing it wrong. You're raising them wrong.
Right. But like, it was like everybody would put pressure on Avi to propose to me before we were even married. He's like, when are you going to get married? When are you going to get married? When are you going to get married? Okay, so we got married. All right. We got married. Is everybody happy now? When are you going to have kids? When are you going to have kids? When are you going to have kids?
Yeah, shut the fuck up.
Yeah, shut the fuck up. It's none of your business. Anyway, it's a losing battle. We're never gonna win.
No.
So women and marriage. So women may have not married for a variety and or combination of reasons, including personal inclination, a dearth of eligible men.
Dearth.
What's a dearth?
Oh, dearth.
Like Fred Durst? Motherfucker! Whose numbers can decrease dramatically during war conflicts, and socioeconomic conditions, that is, the availability of livelihoods for women. Writer and spinster Louisa May Alcott famously wrote that, quote, liberty is a better husband than love to many of us, end quote. Ooh, I like that, Louisa. Social status issues could also arise where it was unacceptable for a woman to marry below her social rank, but her parents lacked the funds to support a marriage within their social rank. In the early 19th century, particularly in England, women would fall under coverture, stating that all property and contracts in their name would be ceded to their husbands. This was particularly common in women who owned businesses. And remember when we were in Salem, we were learning a little bit about remember when we passed by the apple orchard of Bridget Bishop?
I was just thinking about this.
Yeah, and how like she was only accused of being a witch because her husband passed away, she was a widow, and then naturally that all the land in her husband's name went into her name. And men back then did not like a woman having control or owning property or owning anything. And all you needed to do was look at somebody the wrong way to call them a witch and take their fucking property right out from under them.
Yep. All about greed. Is that easy?
Yeah. And the distinction, I guess, we can make between a lot of people get the burning times and the witch trials confused.
Yes.
The burning times, strictly religious in Europe.
Right. Yes.
Strictly for religious persecution. In Salem, witches were only hung, and it had nothing to do with religion. It was all about land and greed. I feel like if I learned anything new on this trip, that was, the thing.
That summed it up.
So the First World War between 1914 and 1918 prevented many within a generation of women from experiencing romance and marriage or having children. In modern peacetime societies with wide opportunities for romance, marriage, and children, there are other reasons that women remain single as they approach old age. Psychologist Erik Erikson postulated that during young adulthood, ages 18 to 39, individuals experience an inner conflict between a desire for intimacy, i.e., a committed relationship leading to a marriage, and a desire for isolation, i.e., fear of commitment. Other reasons women may choose not to marry include a focus on career, a desire for an independent life, economic considerations, or an unwillingness to make the compromises expected in a marriage.
I have a little article later from like a turn of the century paper about why women were it was like quoting women, like they asked them, hey, why don't you want to get married? And the responses are so funny.
Oh my god, I can't hear that. I feel like this episode, like, it's gonna be a little long because, like, we're not just spouting off information here. Like, I have a lot of thoughts about this topic.
Me too. Yeah, great. Yeah, I know the last one had a lot of information, but we stuck like to the script to get that all in because we knew it was going to be long.
I feel like me and you can both relate to this because we don't have children.
Yes.
I mean, we are married, but like, I feel like not having children plays a big part into this like whole spinster trope.
Right, because what if somebody not in our time zone, you know what I mean, era, they had a child, that child grew up, moved away, had started their own life, and this person is a widow or a widower, and they're solitary, they're the only person seen in town. The rest of the town may not know they ever had a kid, and they're considered a spinster. even though they had a child.
Yeah, I have a lot of opinions about this. I
Okay,
just
good.
fucking hate societal standards, and like I
Hmm.
was always like the person to like not conform. Like I feel like there was even a point where I was like, I'm never gonna get married.
Me too.
Yeah,
Yes.
100%. So I completely like I'm very close to this topic. So some writers have suggested that to understand why women do not marry, one should examine reasons women do marry and why it may be assumed they should marry in the first place. According to Adrian Rich, quote, women have married because it was necessary in order to have children who would not suffer economic deprivation or social ostracism, in order to remain respectable, in order to do what was expected of women, because coming out of, quote, abnormal childhoods, they wanted to feel normal, and because heterosexual romance has been represented as the great female adventure, duty, and fulfillment.
Oh, Lord.
Oh, bullshit. I mean, I'm a happily married woman, but I feel like that shouldn't be expected of a woman. You do
Yeah.
it because you want to, not because you're expected to.
Right.
Never married women are called anisat, Aanissat, in Arabic, or spinsters or old maids in English. You're better at the French. Take that word.
Vielfield? Vielfield?
Filfil in French, and Zitelle in Italian, Alt Jungfer in German, Shengnu in Mandarin, Starapana in Polish, and Daktar Torshide in Persian. In
Nailed
Japan,
it.
where everything but the French. I can't do the French tongue.
I'm telling you, you'd say the first little bit and then give up on the second half of the word, and that's what it sounds like.
So in Japan, where women had traditionally been expected to marry at a young age, those who were unmarried after the age of 25 were metaphorically referred to as unsold Christmas cakes,
Oh, the fuck?
in reference to items which are still unsold after the 25th.
Oh my God.
That's fucked. That's fucked up.
On the other side of the coin, let's talk about like some eternal virgin goddesses, like the veneration of deities who choose to remain unwed, untethered, childless. So this is about Hestia, Artemis, Iphigeneia, and Athena. So Hestia is the personification of the hearth, and the sacral fire transcends the bounty between humankind and the goddess and gods. She had a major role in female rites of passage, such as marriage and childbirth. Because the mythology as well as the iconography of the goddess Hestia are poorly developed, further implications of her virginity are not traceable. Hestia, so if you do choose to have Hestia in your home as part of your hearth, maybe have an altar to her in your kitchen, these are some herbs you can consider to honor her. These include cooking herbs such as basil, mint, sage, rosemary, parsley, thyme, and dill. Sprigs of herbs such as fresh or dried could be arranged in a small vase. If you would like, you can add some stones or metals. Hestia's crystals are garnet and amethyst, and she could be honored with gold, silver, or brass. Antique silver spoons work perfectly. Go thrift those things. Go get them at Goodwill. So Artemis was the goddess of wild places, flocks, and the hunt. She was named Patina Theron, Lady of Wild Animals, which I'm like, yes, I love her.
Yeah.
So in the Iliad and the Slayer of Wild Beasts in the Homeric hymns, she had particularly close ties to deer, as indicated by the legend that pregnant women swam to her island in order to give birth, and to bears. Bears play a significant role in the rites and roles of a cult dedicated to Artemis, which were performed by young girls. The stages of the ritual are not clear, but it included libations and spinning and weaving.
There it is.
And was finalized with a goat sacrifice.
Oh, geez. Okay.
So herbs for Artemis include cypress. This evergreen tree was often associated with Artemis and was thought to be one of her favorite plants. In classical mythology, it was said that Artemis herself planted the first cypress tree. You could use chamomile. The sweet-smelling herb was another favorite of Artemis and was often used in spells and rituals relating to the goddess. It was thought to have a calming property and was often used to induce sleep and promote relaxation. You can use thyme. This herb was associated with Artemis due to its strong, earthy scent and was often used in rituals and spells relating to her. It was also thought to have protective properties and was sometimes used to ward off evil spirits and negative entities. Entities. And lavender. This fragrant herb was also linked to Artemis and was thought to be one of her favorite plants. It was often used in spells and rituals relating to the goddess and was believed to have those calming relaxative properties as well. So I've never heard of Iphigeneia?
Iphigenia? Yeah.
Iphigeneia?
Iphigenia.
So near the temple of Artemis, there was a shrine to Iphigeneia, the daughter of Agamemnon and Clytemnestra.
What?
Clytemnestra, who on her way to the wedding with Achilles was almost sacrificed to Artemis. A deer was then slaughtered instead of the girl, and Iphigenia was whisked away by the goddess herself in order to serve her on the Taurus Peninsula. Artemis was there venerated under the name Parthenos, or as Iphigenia, which confirms the closeness of these two figures. Artemis was a virgin herself and shunned men except for her brother Apollo, and she insisted ruthlessly on the chastity of her mythical attendants, the nymphs, yet the goddess as well as the nymphs were intimately familiar with sexuality and the female cycles and childbirth. Worshipped in her temple, the Parthenon, Athena was a very different expression of a virgin goddess than Artemis, for she was very much identified with the city and its distinct male-defined culture. Athena was said to have been born from the head of her father Zeus, and in the Eumenides? I'm dying. Eumenides of
Skyless.
Eumenides of Aeschylus, she was said to have declared that she sided with her father against her mother in all things except marriage, which she shunned. She was born fully armed as a warrior and usually depicted wearing a helmet and holding a spear and shield. So herbs for Artemis include rue, olive, lavender, lily, sunflower, sage, mint, rosemary, rose, chamomile, fennel, thyme, marjoram, anise, and dandelion. These are all associated with Athena and her qualities of wisdom, strength, and the natural world. The last little bit here is events today, as far as Spinster, I guess, news. It says, in Australia, parties are held for young single people to meet and socialize, particularly in rural areas. These events are known as bachelor and spinster balls, or colloquially, B&S balls. A philanthropic group of women between the ages of 21 to 35 called the Spinsters of San Diego organizes these events.
They should just shorten it to BS balls, because it's bullshit that, that they actually hold events for people to meet because they're trying to marry off young girls. Just let them do what they want. Jesus.
Leave them alone.
Just leave them alone.
Leave Brittany alone. Take it away.
Poor Brittany. All right, we're going to read 2 articles now from Amy M. Freud, F-R-O-I-D-E. She is an associate professor of history at University of Maryland, Baltimore County. She's the author of Never Married, Single Women in Early Modern England, 2005, which was shortlisted for the Whitfield Prize. So this says, Single Women in Early Modern England investigates a paradox in the history of early modern England. Although 1/3 of adult women were never married, these women have remained largely absent from historical scholarship. Amy Freud reintroduces us to the category of difference called marital status and to the significant ways it shaped the life experiences of early modern women. By decentering marriage as the norm in social, economic, and cultural terms, her book critically refines our current understanding of people's lives in the past and adds to a recent line of scholarship that questions just how common, quote, traditional families really were. This book is both a social economic study of single women and a cultural study of the meanings of singleness in early modern England. It focuses on never married women in England's provincial towns and on single women from a broad social spectrum. Covering the entire early modern era, it reveals that this was a time of transition in the history of never married women. During the 16th century, lifelong single women were largely absent from popular culture, but by the 18th century, they had become a central concern of English society. As the first book of original research to focus on single women on the period, it also illuminates other areas of early modern history. Freud reveals the importance of kinship in the past to women without husbands and children, as well as to widows, widowers, single men, and orphans. Examining the contributions of work and propertied single women, she is able to illustrate the importance of gender and marital status to urban economies and to notions of urban citizenship in the early modern era. Tracing the origins of the spinster and old maid stereotypes, she reveals how single women were marginalized as first the victims and then the villains of the Protestant English society. This next little bit, this is from theconversation.com, and this is titled Spinster, Old Maid, or Self-Partnered, Why Words for Single Women Have Changed Through Time. and this is also by Amy Freud. So this says women who were once called spinsters eventually started being called old maids. In 17th century New England, there were also words like thornback.
That's baller.
That's a new one. Thornback is a sea skate covered with thorny spines used to describe single women older than 25.
Fucking love that. Thornback.
I guess because I guess at that age they consider a woman like hardened to love. So maybe she's considered spiny.
Yeah.
Right? You don't go too close to her, or she'll get you. She'll get you, yeah. So attitudes towards single women have repeatedly shifted, and part of that attitude shift is reflected in the names given to unwed women. So the rise of the single woman. Before the 17th century, women who weren't married were called maids, virgins, or puella, the Latin word for girl. These words emphasize youth and chastity, and they presume that women would only be single for a small portion of their life, a period of, quote, pre-marriage. But by the 17th century, new terms such as spinster and single woman emerged. What changed? The numbers of unwed women or women who simply never married. It started to grow. In the 1960s, demographer John Hajnal identified the Northwestern European marriage pattern, in which people in Northwestern Europe, countries such as England, started marrying late, in their 30s and even 40s, kind of like today's day and age. It's kind of more common now to get married later on in life. Not everybody's getting married right out of high school like they did when our parents were younger, you know? A significant proportion of the populace didn't marry at all. In this region of Europe, it was the norm for married couples to start a new household when they married, which required accumulating a certain amount of wealth. Like today, young men and women worked and saved money before moving into a new home, a process that often delayed marriage. And that's kind of like why, me and Avi, we waited so long because, we need to save up to buy a home. And, things are so much more expensive now than they were when our parents were our age.
Yes, exactly.
Crazy. Our parents were buying homes back then for, $50,000.
Yeah, insane. Oh, Lord.
What? I freaking wish. If marriage were delayed too long or people couldn't accumulate enough wealth, they might not marry at all. I feel like that's still the case today. Now terms were needed for adult single women who might never marry. The term spinster transitioned from describing an occupation that employed many women, a spinner of wool, which is what we talked about in our last episode, to a more legal term for an independent unmarried woman. Single women made up, on average, 30% of the adult female population in early modern England. My own research, this is from localpopulationstudies.org, on the town of Southampton found that in 1698, 34.2% of women over 18 were single, another 18.5% were widowed, and less than half, or 47.3%, were married.
Wow.
So question, if you are widowed, are you considered a spinster then, if you choose to never remarry?
Yeah,
and if
I think so.
Had kids? So, okay, so society's still not happy if you've married and had lost your husband. They're still going to call you a fucking spinster.
I guess on the legal censuses, if they're a legal document, they would be titled as widow.
Okay.
Not spinster, because they had been married legally.
Right, but I'm wondering if they lump widowed women into the same category of
Probably. They're both looked down on.
Old and washed up women. Okay, so many of us assume that past societies were more traditional than our own, with marriage more common. But my work shows that in 17th century England, at any given time, more women were unmarried than married. It was a normal part of the era's life and culture. So if it was so normal, then I don't understand why it became so villainized, you know?
Right.
Do you want to tell us about the term old maid?
Sure. In the late 1690s, the term old maid became common. The expression emphasizes the paradox of being old and yet still virginal and unmarried. It wasn't the only term that was tried out. The era's literature also poked fun at superannuated virgins? Superannuated virgins. But because old maid trips off the tongue a little easier, that was the one they stuck with. The undertones of this new word are decidedly critical. A Satyr upon Old Maids, which is an anonymously written 1713 pamphlet, referred to never married women as odious, impure, and repugnant. Another common trope was that old maids would be punished for not marrying by leaping apes in hell.
Oh, leading
apes in hell. At what point did a young single woman become an old maid? There was a defining line. In the 17th century, it was a woman in her mid-20s. For instance, The single poet Jane Baker wrote in 1688 a poem entitled A Virgin's Life that she hoped she could remain fearless of 25 and all its train of slight or scorn or being called old maid. These negative terms came about as the number of single women continued to climb and marriage rates dropped. In the 1690s and nearly 1700s, English authorities became so worried about the population decline that the government levied a marriage duty tax, requiring bachelors and widowers and some single women of means of pay that amounted to a fine for not being married.
Do you
Fuck
know,
that.
could you imagine being fined in this day and age
If
for
you're not
not
married.
being married?
Well, there was
That's,
a window tax, so money's money.
I guess so, but that's so fucked. Um, Question. If you become a nun and you want to live your life to please God and Jesus, are you still considered a spinster if you're a nun?
Technically, they're married to Jesus.
That's bullshit.
It is bullshit. No, yeah,
Sorry.
I would be in that camp of frame of mind.
Well, yeah, yeah, that's how I would still probably, consider them that, but I feel like society would consider them a woman of God at that point, and maybe she would be able to evade that title as a spinster.
Yeah,
You know
because
what I'm saying?
religion is everything. I
Because
mean,
now,
yeah.
yeah, because now she's a pious woman, and like
Hmm.
she doesn't deserve that mean that derogatory title,
Right, right, right. She's not dirty. She doesn't want the sex, and she can't have the sex. She just doesn't want it. But a spinster,
But it's spinster,
but a
yeah.
spinster.
But it's spinster. We need a t-shirt that just says dot dot dot. But it's spinster. Okay, so today in the US, the median first age at marriage for women is about 28. For men, it's 30. What we're experiencing now isn't a historical first. Instead, we've essentially returned to a marriage pattern that was common 300 years ago. From the 18th century up until the mid 20th century, the average age at first marriage dropped to a low age of 20 for women and age 22 for men. Then it began to rise again. I'm wondering if it's because it's just like how the economy is at any given time. Because I know for like our generation, I know the economy had a lot to do with that. Like,
Mhm.
how many kids in like our generation graduated from college, got like part-time jobs or whatever? 2008, the friggin' stock market crashed and like everybody was out of a job.
Yeah.
Nobody could save any friggin' money. Kids got stuck with these student loans they couldn't pay off.
Yeah, but they call it the baby boom for a reason. War
Yes.
influenced so much as far as
Yes.
population.
Right. So there's a reason Vogue was asking Watson about her single status as she approached 30. To many, age 30 is a milestone for women. The moment when, if they haven't already, they're supposed to go from being footloose and fancy free to thinking about marriage, a family, and a mortgage.
I think they were talking about Emma Watson. Her picture was on here somewhere.
Okay, okay. I'm like, who are they talking about? So, even if you're a wealthy and famous woman, you can't escape this cultural expectation. Male celebrities don't seem to be questioned about being single and 30. Yeah, it's true. It's a double standard. While no one will call Watson a spinster or old maid today, she nonetheless feels compelled to create a new term for herself. Or for her status, which is self-partnered. What? Or she says it, Harry, I'm self-partnered, Harry!
Once I make my move.
I
Don't
love that.
worry.
In what's somehow dubbed the age of self-care, perhaps this term is no surprise. It seems to say, I'm focused on myself and my own goals and needs. I don't need to focus on another person, whether it's a partner or a child. You go, Hermione.
Yeah.
You freaking go.
Yeah.
To me, though, it's ironic that the term self-partnered seems to elevate coupledom. Spinster, single woman, or singleton, none of those terms openly refers to an absent partner, but self-partnered evokes a missing better half.
Mm.
It says something about our culture and gender expectations that, despite her status and power, a woman like Watson still feels uncomfortable simply calling herself single.
Mm. And you have a big list later of popular quote unquote spinsters in our pop culture, right?
Yeah, some women rocking that title, I guess, if people still call them spinsters, but like unaffected by what society, the pressures that society is placing on them. And I look up to all of those women because of that.
Mm-hmm. Stevie
Makes
Nicks
me
being one of them.
right. The most like profound creative women, I guess, don't have children. I feel like I read an interview somewhere where Stevie said that she didn't have children because her creativity, all her songs are her children, and she wants to focus on her craft. And I was like, oh, that's me.
That's you. I could see that for sure.
Yeah, I feel like my creativity is my baby, the creations I'm putting out into the world. And while I may not need to give a college education to all the things that I create, like I still feel like, like I'm able to nurture in other ways. It doesn't always have to be a child that comes from my own womb.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're going to take a break now? Break time?
I think it's break time. I'm ready.
Okay. All right. Let's take a break. And when we come back, we're going to talk about Victorian magazine, and they asked spinsters why they were single, and the answers were incredibly savage. I can't wait to read that article.
Okay, cool.
And we have a lot coming up about pop culture, and we'll also do our Grounded by the Moon card pull. So stay tuned. We'll be right back. Hey, little witches! The Stinas here. If you've been listening to our podcast for a while, you would know how much we love using the Practical Magic Inner Witch Oracle deck by Grounded by the Moon.
And now we want to share the magic of Grounded by the Moon with you, our listeners. Joseph Benitez Egerton, the creator behind Grounded by the Moon, would like to offer this very special 10% off discount to all who wish to experience the magic of his Practical Magic themed tarot and oracle decks.
But that's not all. He also creates other divination tools like tarot workbooks, deck bags and altar cloths, pendulum kits, oil blends, cleansing sprays, smoke wands, teas, and ritual kits.
And let's not forget about his custom handcrafted, all-natural soy candles, where every candle is hand-poured and personally infused and charged under the light of the moon. They even come with a crystal.
And did we mention all of the ingredients in the candles are ethically sourced?
All of Joseph's offerings are just so magical. So go visit groundedbythemoon.com and use the coupon code Magnolia Magic for 10% off your entire order at checkout.
That's MAGNOLIA MAGIC. So get your discount today.
You're listening to the Magnolia Street Podcast. Welcome back. Do you have your deck ready?
Ew. I don't think there's a Spinster card in here. Yeah, I don't think there's a Spinster card in here, but I'll see what we could do. All right. Tell me when to stop.
Okay. Stop. Red boots. The witch's boots.
There you go. The witch's boots. I don't think we've picked this one yet.
We haven't.
All right. So the keyword on this card is stability. And I kind of love that actually for this episode because witch's boots, it's kind of like that Nancy Sinatra song. These boots are made for walking. And that's a woman in total fucking control of herself. Right?
But it's also like the big fuck you to a society that like didn't wear color. It was taboo to wear red shoes. Mm-hmm. But of course, Maria Owens is going to wear red boots.
Right. I mean, the boots on this card are brown, but we can envision that they're red. Alice said they're red, so they're red, right?
Yeah.
All right. So the keywords on this card: stability, pride, comfort. I feel like pride is also kind of a reason why maybe some women choose not to get married, just to give the old fuck you to society. Like they have too much pride to conform to what society expects of them, right?
And you ever talk to? I know I have bachelorette friends who live alone, and they're like, I love my house. I love it being the way it is. I know where everything is. It's not a pigsty. I'm not cleaning up after anybody. I love it. I'm so comfortable in my own home.
I totally have friends like that too. So this card says, rely on your own strength right now and stand proud. There may be tough times in your future, but it's nothing you cannot handle. You don't need no mans.
You don't need no mans.
You are strong and stable. Maintain this structure while you go forth on your adventure. Be aware of the footprints you leave behind in your path. Do not be afraid of stepping on someone's toes. Stand up on your own 2 feet and do it confidently. The witch's boots stand securely wrapped with their laces, connected to the witches of Salem and their magic. Embrace the word witch and say it with pride. Use the power of this card, the affirmation, and a black candle to help connect with your inner powers and bring forth your magic. And the mantra on this card is, I walk a true, strong, and magical path. And I really love that. That's like
a perfect card.
That's such a positive spin on like, if you are a woman and you don't want to get married and you don't want to bear children, that's your choice. And stand confident in your choices. Don't let society get in your head about that shit.
I
Yeah.
love that card so much. It was
And if you
perfect
do want
pull.
to get married and have children, then do so. But it should be your choice and not because you're feeling pressured. You should really want it deep down inside,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Exactly.
Awesome. Thank you. That was a great
Well,
card.
that was a great card. That was perfect for this episode.
So let's talk about this article. This article is from 1889. It's going to be pictured in our notes, but it's a Victorian magazine asked spinsters why they were single, and it says the answers were incredibly savage. So
Ooh, love it.
here we go.
Okay.
This says, we have decided to divide this prize, as we did the Bachelors, amongst a number of competitions which are about the same merit. It is very invidious to pick out one and give all the money to the sender. I'm not sure what kind of prize this is, so I guess hang tight. We therefore publish the best 21 that have come to hand and send 5 shillings for each. We may add that the competition by the spinsters have been better than those which we received from the bachelors, besides being considerably more numerous. So is this a competition for the best response of why they're not married?
That's what I'm wondering.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like.
This one is Miss Laura Bax. They're 20 years old. They say, because matrimony is like an electric battery. When you once join hands, you can't let go. However much it hurts. And when embarked on a toboggan slide, you must go to the bitter end, however much it bumps. This next one is from Emmeline Lawrence. 8?
8?
Maybe
Wait,
28. Maybe there were 28.
Okay, I'm like, damn, you're gonna call an 8-year-old a spinster? You're entering an 8-year-old into a spinster contest?
This says, because men, like 3-cornered tarts, are deceitful. They are very pleasing to the eye, but on closer acquaintanceship prove hollow and stale, consisting chiefly of puff, with a minimum of sweetness and an unconquerable propensity to disagree with one. This next one was saying that her reason is pretty evident, I think, after she read this advertisement of a man wanting a wife.
Okay, so this looks like a want ad, right?
Yeah.
Like one. Okay, so some dude wrote this want ad for a wife. It said, wanted, a wife who can handle a broom, to brush down the cobwebs and sweep up the room, to make decent bread that a fellow can eat. Not the horrible compound you often meet. So this guy, I guess, was a poet. He didn't even fucking know it.
Was it rhyming?
He was right. Yeah, he is rhyming. Who knows how to broil and to fry and to roast, make a good cup of tea and a plate of toast. A wife who washes, cooks, irons and stitches, and sews up rips in a fellow's old breeches.
Wow.
And makes her own garments, an item that grows quite highly expensive, as everyone knows. A common sense creature, and still with a mind to teach, and quite exalted, refined. A sort of an angel and housewife combined. Yikes. That is like every man, every woman wants to like run the other way from.
This last one is from a 62-year-old solidified spinster, Miss Sophia Drew.
Yeah.
As there are so many more women than men, we cannot all hope to marry. But please don't think I am dissatisfied. I am now only a dairymaid. If married, I should be a wife, mother, nurse, housekeeper, chambermaid, seamstress, laundress, dairymaid, and scrub generally. So she's like, I'm good. I'm just a dairymaid.
Yeah.
If I get married, I have to be all these things plus more.
Yeah, man. We're expected to keep house. We're expected to rear children. We're expected to do it all.
These next ones weren't in the article itself, but they were like listed out next to photos. So I'm not positive if these are 1888, 1889 responses, but they were fucking funny.
Okay. I like how the title of this section is Titbits.
Tidbits!
Titular tidbits. And this this first one says, because I do not care to enlarge my menagerie of pets, and I find the animal man less docile than a dog, less affectionate than a cat, and less amusing than a monkey.
Bitch!
Oh my god. Savage. Savage. The next one is, for good men are scarce, but fools there are plenty. That's why I am single at 27. This next one, because I have other professions open to me in which the hours are shorter, the work more agreeable, and the pay possibly better.
That's fucking right.
Yeah, man. The next one says, I am a derelict cargo of treasure on the shore of the nuptial sea.
Oh my goodness.
How
Poet.
poetic. Right? The next one. Like the wild mustang of the prairie that roams unfettered, tossing his head in utter disdain at the approach of the lasso, which, if once around his neck, proclaims him captive, so I find it more delightful to tread on the verge of freedom and captivity than to allow the snarer to cast around me the matrimonial lasso.
Hell yeah.
And then there's a couple more. So this one says, because, like a piece of rare china, I am breakable and mendable, but difficult to match. So I guess that's for the picky woman. And this last one says, my reason for being a spinster is answered in a quotation from The Taming of the Shrew. Quote, of all the men alive, I never yet beheld that special face, which I could fancy more than any other. End quote.
Aw.
48 hours later.
Oh my god.
Sorry.
Your chaos energy this morning.
I'm sorry. Let me let you record.
Even your like Marcos were so frantic this morning. I was like, oh my god. Everybody calm down.
Calm down. I'm a rippin', ready to go. Listeners don't know this, but this is fucking 2 days later, and I'm a whole new woman.
You certainly are.
Hi.
You ready to get into this? Where do we leave off? Let's see.
Oh, the childless woman as failure.
Oh no.
Oh no.
All right, so we're going to talk about the childless woman as failure, or the quote spinster aunt as provocation for the future. And this is by Alexandra M. Hill. So this article is summed up, but the full article link will be in our show notes. So this says, in her article, Alexandra M. Hill explores the role of childless women in the context of neoliberal society and challenges conventional notions of motherhood and futurity. Hill's personal experiences as a childless woman serve as the lens through which she examines these complex dynamics. Hill's article starts with a personal touch as she reflects on the strengths of women in German as an organization. She emphasizes that this organization provides a space for personal experiences, whether you're a scholar, colleague, student, or simply a friend. Hill's personal journey as a childless woman shapes her perspective on the broader issues discussed in the article. The central theme revolves around the childless woman in neoliberal world. Hill points out that popular culture often lacks representations of these women, leaving them feeling somewhat invisible. She distinguishes between two common portrayals: the single sexualized woman who experiences childlessness as a transitional phase, and the more promising spinster aunt figure who offers an alternative model of kinship. In neoliberal society, childless women are often perceived as failures as they don't conform to traditional gender norms, and they challenge the idea of extended family and societal structures. Hill argues that neoliberalism promotes individualism and consumerism, limiting genuine choices due to structural inequalities. One of the most thought-provoking aspects of Hill's article is the connection between motherhood and consumption. In a neoliberal climate, being a mother is not just about raising children, but also about purchasing the right goods and services for them. This concept raises questions about the impact of consumerism on motherhood and family life. Hill also discusses the consequences of neoliberal policies on gender roles. While they allow for reevaluation and reinterpretation, they can simultaneously reinforce traditional expectations. The dissolution of social welfare system places more pressure on families to provide care, thereby emphasizing the importance of the heteronormative family structure.
I just want to say about the little paragraph you read before about buying the right goods. I know I was guilty of this like back in the day when I wanted kids. My brain probably did not go any farther than what I wanted to name them and all the shit I wanted to buy them. Like the baby registry was the most fun to like throw shit into.
Right.
But that's as far as my brain went. And then I grew the rest of that cortex, that frontal lobe.
The lobe. Furthermore, Hill delves into the realm of alternative reproductive technologies, ARTs, which promise new choices for women struggling to conceive. However, these technologies align with the neoliberal ideology of individual responsibility, potentially obscuring the structural challenges many women face. Hill highlights that childlessness is prevalent, particularly in places like Germany, where cultural ideals, limited family policies, education, and workplace sexism all contribute to this trend. Childless women find themselves in a unique position in a society that primarily values motherhood and family. But like, you know what's like really contradictory to me? Society places such pressure on a woman to bear children, to start a family, to do all that bullshit. You can't do that and be a working woman at the same time.
Forget your
Like,
job. Yeah, and
yeah.
if you put too much effort into your job and you hire a nanny, then you're looked down upon too. You're not being a good mother. You're not picking your own kids up from school. You never win.
Yeah, you're looked down at it from that perspective, but then also from your company's perspective, like people in the workplace, like you're the higher ups or whatever, they look down on pregnant women, or if you need to take maternity leave, or that time like after you give birth and you want to bond with your child, like you're limited on that time. Like you only have so much time to actually like fall into that new role. Like, and it's such a huge transition in life, is like bearing a child, becoming a mother, and like you're bringing this child into the world. Of course you're going to want to bond with it, spend time with it. And like some companies like look down on that, and it's like from either side of the coin, it's like it's fucked up that the mother or the woman in that situation, like they're fucked either way. Like they don't get the respect that they deserve.
Never mind the dad. Like I'm pro masculine too. Like they get no time.
Right.
You know what, 3 days, maybe a week?
Some companies do give men the time now.
Yeah,
Some
which is
companies
great,
did
but
start
like
doing that. Yeah.
there was a TikTok recently. Some dude went off on like dads wanting to leave work at 4 o'clock instead of 5 o'clock so they could go trick or treating with their kid. I was like, are you kidding?
Yeah.
Of all the things.
There's no way to win in society. Somebody's going to look down on you for something or another. You can't do anything right.
Yeah.
So just do you. The article introduces the intriguing concept of the spinster aunt as a disruptive force in the linear notion of progress and futurity advocated by neoliberalism. These aunts offer a different model of kinship, challenging the traditional parent-child structure and highlighting the importance of alternative systems of connection and interrelatedness. So I guess in the case of like Jillian and Sally, I guess that would be talking about anybody that's more of an aunt figure challenges the traditional parent-child structure.
I think so. I think being a little bit more removed from the core family maybe helps. Like, and okay, if we're talking about Sally and Jillian, like the different vibe that Jillian brings into the household, because Sally is so close to her daughters and has been, you know, she can't see the forest for the trees. Sometimes maybe the smallest little molehills are more mountains, and maybe Jillian's presence can help bring a little more grounding. As flighty as Jillian is, I feel like having that outside perspective from somebody her age, you know, I know the aunts are in the picture, but somebody her age to be like, listen, it's not that big deal. She wants to go get her nose pierced. Who gives a shit? You know? Take the Advil or whatever in the show.
Oh, and then Sudbury. Yeah. Take the Advil. So to conclude, Hill's article encourages us to rethink the roles of childless women in a neoliberal society and the dominant narratives around motherhood and choice. It emphasizes the need for multifaceted and inclusive models of social interrelatedness, particularly as government-funded care networks become scarcer in an increasingly privatized world.
This next article was entitled, Who Were the Modern-Day Witches of Savok? Spinster sisters under suspicion after archaeologists find an ancient Cornish witch pit. Witch pits were still being used until at least the 1970s.
Wow.
Okay.
That's recent.
Yeah. A recent coven of Cornish witches, first formed in the 1640s, has been digging pits lined with animal skins, bird carcasses, and feathers as recently as 1970s as a part of a fertility ritual. It was revealed today. Since 2003, archaeologist Jackie Wood has uncovered numerous shallow rectangular holes near the hamlet of Savok. It is believed by locals that two spinsters of the village who passed away in the 1980s might have been part of a coven of local witches connected to these pits and potentially transmitted their knowledge. This reminds me of the witch bumps.
Oh, the 13 bumps. Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
Archaeologist Jackie Wood has found a recently dug hole containing animal bones wrapped in synthetic twine used in Cornwall since the 1970s, suggesting the witches involved might be still alive. Dr. Wood's theory is that local women, spanning generations use these pits for fertility rituals, with the earliest pit dating back to the 1640s, featuring a swan as a symbol of fertility. Some pits contain skins of animals, bird eggs, and stones, often with pebbles from Swanpool Beach, possibly as offerings to St. Brigid of Kildare, the patron saint of newborns. The practice is believed to be tied to witchcraft, passed down through generations. These people believed in the effectiveness of these rituals as they have been carried out in secret for many years. The theory suggests that if a woman didn't conceive within a year of marriage, she might create a feather pit as an offering to St. Bride. I'm wondering if that's supposed to be Brigid or Brigid. If she eventually became pregnant, she would return to the pit, burn its contents, and release the spirit of the swan. If pregnancy never occurred, the pit remained undisturbed. Approximately 40 of these pits were discovered in reed-rich areas, with the first one found by accident during a Neolithic platform excavation in 2003.
This whole article, this is actually summarized.
Yes.
There's a lot more to this article. If you, this is from the dailymail.co.uk. There is more to that if you want to go check. Everybody wants to go check it out. We'll link it. All right, so we're going to talk about male and married spinsters.
Okay.
So I guess that we would fall into that category.
Okay. What does it
Right?
say?
Okay, so you don't just have to be childless. Like, you can also be married and childless and still be a spinster, right?
I'm ready to dive in.
This is a Gestor article, and this is by J.H. Baker. It's from the American Journal of Legal History, Volume 21, Number 3. This is from 1977. So this is summed up. This is about a 5-page long, I guess, thesis or article or whatever you want to call it. But so the article, Male and Married Spinsters, offers an intriguing analysis of the term spinster and its historical connotations, challenging the assumption that it was solely used to describe unmarried women in Elizabethan and Jacobean accounts. The main idea the author is investigating is whether the word spinster was used in legal situations to either clear husbands of wrongdoing or to stop the defense of marital coercion. The article starts by pointing out a paradox in legal indictments that use the phrase A.B. spinster wife of C.D.
So it's like Justina, spinster wife of Avi.
Got it. Oh, okay. So basically like the wife is the property of the husband.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay. So the paradox emerges because if spinster couldn't legally describe a wife, then the phrase wouldn't make sense. This paradox is a crucial part of the author's argument against the idea that the term spinster was only used for unmarried women. The historical context further complicates the matter as it becomes evident that the term spinster was initially connected to an occupation, spinning, which was predominantly practiced by women. This occupational connection to the term challenges the assumption that it exclusively referred to a personal status. A crucial point is made by referring to a significant King's Bench decision in 1525 where, quote, spinster was recognized as applicable to both genders. So I guess men spun too, I guess, as far as like the activity of spinning goes, or the occupation. That's what it sounds like. So this recognition highlights the occupational aspect of the term. So I guess men spun too as far as occupation. The article also raises questions about the transition from spinster as an occupation to its association with unmarried women. While this transition is not well documented, it appears to have occurred gradually, with instances of women being referred to as spinsters irrespective of their marital status. This shift can be attributed to evolving meanings of the term and its symbolic association with female virtue, further cementing the connection between spinster and unmarried women, particularly in legal documents. The discussion extends to the technicalities of legal naming conventions where the term, quote, single woman was used to describe unmarried women before being largely replaced by the term spinster. The choice of spinster as a suitable term was likely due to its origin in an occupation, making it compatible with legal technicalities. The article also briefly touches on the possibility of describing a man as a spinster, although it notes that no concrete examples of this practice have been found. Despite the historical evolution of the term, modern usage clearly associates spinster with unmarried women, leaving little room for debate. It offers a compelling perspective on the intricate nature of language and the evolving meanings of terminology over different historical periods.
I guess I should go dive into those 5 pages and really dig out if spinster can be applied to the both of us.
Yeah.
So let's talk about spiders again. We really went head over heel last episode about spiders, but there's more. And it says the first part of the text this is summed up, I guess. The first part of the text discusses a book centered around the Kalmath Mountains, initially promising a chronological narrative, but eventually delving into the various communities within the area. While lacking a unifying narrative thread, the book explores the relationship between myth, evolution, and our connection with nature. It introduces new conceptual tools, proposing that the development of myths will influence how we manage the wilderness, even suggesting the use of Bigfoot as a potential element in modern mythology. The second part of the text focuses on Spiders and Spinsters, Women and Mythology by Marta Weigel. This comprehensive sourcebook explores the depiction of female figures in various myths across cultures, including Judeo-Christian traditions, classical Greek, and Native American cultures. Weigel's book challenges the separation of ancient and modern, as well as the division among academic disciplines, emphasizing the importance of contextual data with interpreting myths, particularly in relation to societal structures and gender dynamics. The book explores a wide array of female-related myths, examining figures such as Pandora, Demeter, Lilith, and the Virgin Mary, alongside themes like matriarchy, the moon, magic, and menstruation. Weigel's compilation provides a valuable juxtaposition of Greek, Christian, and Native American myths, offering fresh perspective on ancient themes. The volume's interdisciplinary approach underscores the significance of these female-centric mythologies in various fields, including religion, anthropology, literature, psychology, philosophy, folklore, and natural sciences. Weigel's inclusion of diverse interpretations, including those from scholars with feminist perspectives, adds depth to the analysis. The book sheds light on the societal and historical context surrounding these myths, providing insight into the sources, interpretations, and the significance of myths in different societies. The text challenges the prevailing narrative of, quote, our truth versus, quote, others' misguided beliefs, emphasizing the myths encapsulate beliefs, social structures, and moral systems that often reflect the interests of specific groups, primarily male-dominated. Weigel's approach highlights the continuity between ancient and modern beliefs, presenting myths as a reflection of social values and norms by including ethnographic and historical data. The book underscores the importance of understanding the context in which myths originated and how they have evolved over time. For instance, Weigel references the work of Murphy and Murphy with the Munduruku, highlighting the significance of considering social context along mythical texts. I'm not sure what that is.
Munduruku.
Munduruku.
Indigenous people of Brazil living in the Amazon River basin.
Ooh, okay, cool.
That article really, I feel like that really didn't tell me much, though, about spiders.
No, not really. Is this a book? Let me see.
You can get a paperback on Amazon for $7.
Oh, yeah.
$7.97. It analyzes the treatment of women as heroines, goddesses, spiders, Amazons, and figures of wisdom in the folklore and mythology of the Americas.
Awesome.
Yeah, so I'm not sure how much of that book is like talking about spiders as spinsters.
Right. I'm wondering if it's more of what you and I discussed in the last episode. Oral tradition of spinning tails and spinning fiber.
Yeah, maybe kind of like a Women Who Run with the Wolves type of book.
Exactly. That. Yeah.
Like, you know, like just a lot of lore and using women as archetypes. I'm sure that's an interesting read. I'd like to get my hands on that. And you can too for $7.97 on Amazon. All right, so let's talk about hen wives, spinsters, and lollywillows. What's a lollywillow?
I don't know. You had linked this, and I was like, what the heck is this?
I linked this one?
Uh-huh.
This was taken from terrywindling.com. So in the tumultuous era following the World War I, British society experienced a profound upheaval in gender dynamics, largely attributed to the war's impact. The resulting shift saw women taking on new roles and responsibilities, and despite many job opportunities fading post-war, some newfound liberties endured. The granting of partial voting rights in 1918 to select women over 30 marked a significant milestone, yet societal pressures persisted, compelling women to conform to traditional norms. The loss of a large number of young men during the war intensified the narrative of the surplus woman, prompting a redefinition of the spinster as a social predicament. This trend, coupled with the popularization of Freudian ideas about sexual repression, cast elderly virgins as pathologically unfulfilled. Well, some authors reinforced these new stereotypes. Others, like Radcliffe Hall, Winifred Maltby, and Vera Brittain, depicted the struggles faced by unmarried women with empathy. Novels such as W.B. Maxwell's Spinster of This Parish and F.M. Mayer's The Rector's Daughter echo themes present in Sylvia Townsend Warner's Lolly Willows.
Rector, I hardly know her.
Lolly Willows, I guess, is a book, although the titles of the latter underscore a distinctive focus on individuality rather than social and familial roles. Townsend Warner's personal life as a feminist, leftist, and lesbian living in the countryside serves as a significant backdrop to her works, which extend beyond quaint village narratives. Beneath their polished surfaces, her stories carry a biting wit, profound wisdom, and incisive social critique akin to Jane Austen's style. Virginia Nicholson's Singled Out offers a rich exploration of the lives of single women in interwar Britain, enhancing the understanding of Townsend Warner's context and themes. To delve deeper into Townsend Warner's life, Claire Harmon's biography, her correspondences, and Valentine Ackland's memoir provide valuable insights. The henwife, a symbolic figure embodying the fusion of the magical and domestic, exemplifies the wisdom and influence passed down among women in communal settings. However, the role of hen husbands remains shrouded in mystery, existing as an enigmatic aspect of folklore and fairy tales. We dive a little bit deeper into, I think I put an article more below about female authors who have been, why are so many female authors deemed spinsters? There's a lot of like spinster type single childless female authors in history.
Yeah, classic literature.
Right. And I don't know why, but why it's a trope, but it exists. So I'm interested.
I'm curious.
To read those articles a little later on.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about reclaiming the spinster, and this is from 2019. Hearkentoavalon.com is where this comes from. And they say, I think the spinster needs rebranding. Just like you and I talked about, we need a new word. Like queen or warrior, you know?
Yeah.
A spinster has come to mean what a woman is not instead of who she is. A spinster has been defined as an older, unmarried woman, as if marriage was the utmost importance in defining oneself. A spinster been called an old maid as if she is not fully formed because she is not married and has no children. Long ago, a spinster was denoted as a woman whose occupation was to spin. But what if it was more than being defined by one's occupation? What if a spinster was a spinner, not necessarily of wool, but of stories and magic?
That's what we were saying before, right?
There it is.
There it is.
A spinster can be the witch next door, the spell weaver, a woman who enjoys her solitude, who is happy to dance with herself. A spinster can be the elder who has tales to tell, stories to weave, magic to spin like gold into a rich tapestry of life well lived.
Yeah.
Oh, I fucking love that.
Phoebe McFudgeon-Nix is who comes to mind when you read that whole paragraph, because like she is the quintessential storyteller of our time, and I think she was married once, but like it was like a fluke. Like I think it was like
for a kid's sake.
Yeah, for the kid. She married her friend passed away. She just married her ex-husband which I think that kid is still part of her life. But I mean, she didn't have to marry the guy to prove it, you know.
Maybe for like, tax reasons because she was making money.
Maybe yeah. I mean, yeah, that makes sense. She wanted to make sure her friend's child was set for life, you know. So I'm sure she felt a lot of survivor's guilt in that aspect. She has always made it a point to let people know that she is childless by choice. Because she's so indebted to her craft and her storytelling, and that to her is fulfilling enough. She doesn't need to bear a child to fulfill, I guess, that part of her life.
I wonder who her significant other is.
Right, like right now?
Yeah, like right now. You know she's getting it.
I think she's just playing the field. I think she's Franny. She's like, all right, get the fuck out in the morning. Yeah, I'm totally 100%. She did actually, I don't know if we talked about this in the Stevie episode. She got pregnant, I think, with Don Henley's child.
Oh, wow.
He actually had an abortion.
Okay, I think I knew that. I didn't know it was Don Henley's kid.
Yeah. So
Wow.
she is like legitimately childless by choice. Like
Mm-hmm.
she chose to never want to bear children.
Atta girl.
To each their own, right?
Then wouldn't more women long to be spinsters as we age? We may take lovers, but we would remain totally ourselves. We would meet our lovers as rivers, not vines, as air currents, not brambles, as flames, not thorns, as butterfly bushes, not bindweed. A spinster may live alone, but she is not alone. She is wild and free and has all matter of non-human beings to keep her company. And she would gather with her sisters and brothers around the fire, and oh, what stories they would tell, like jewels taken out and fondled by caring, weathered hands. To all the women and men who choose not to marry or remarry, choose not to have children, who choose not to be defined by other, know that you are not wrong. You are not selfish. You are enough. Your life choice is yours to make and no one else's. That is
Yeah.
so beautifully written.
I love that.
Let me go get that author real quick. Who wrote this? Ariana Collins.
It was beautiful. That was like poetry, kind of like I love how she put it. Oh, we may take lovers, but we would remain totally ourselves. We meet lovers as rivers, not vines, air
Oh,
currents, not bramble. Like
so
the
beautiful.
analogy. I love it. So by the 2010s, interest developed in this word as a form of reappropriation from third wave feminists. Examples include blogs and videos such as reclaiming the pejorative, including a Bitch magazine article and the Spinster House YouTube channel. I gotta check that YouTube channel
Yeah.
out. Like, what? Never heard of that one. So there are a few different trope categories from tvtropes.org that we believe are relevant to the women in practical magic. So let's talk about the tropes of maiden aunt or old maid or the cool aunt or uncle and widow witch. So the maiden aunt, she is your favorite elderly relative, never married, never thought about marrying, never had a boyfriend or a lover, or at least if she did, you didn't know about it. She is gray-haired, old-fashioned, conservative, prim, proper, prudish, straight-laced, and disapproving of anything newfangled. She wears basic black with lace at the collar and cuffs, and when she goes out, she puts on a hat that is no longer fashionable.
These are the aunts.
These are basically Jet and Franny. But she dotes on her nieces and nephews and fusses over the local parson and the friendly neighborhood policeman. And you know she's dabbling in everybody's love life in that neighborhood.
Yeah.
So although unmarried elderly women have always existed, the maiden aunt as a trope first arose in the 1880s. Historically, women had shorter lifespans than men because of the dangers of childbirth. Many men married more than once, meaning that any woman who didn't marry at a young age had a good chance of marrying later on. But in the mid-Victorian era, there's those damn Victorians again,
Mhm.
women's life expectancies increased due to advances in modern medicine, while men's lifespans decreased or at least didn't go up as quickly, partly due to civilian conscription during wartime, and as we know, partly due to increasing use of tobacco. Suddenly, there were myriads, even millions of women who had no chance of marrying, and unlike unmarried men, had little chance of immigrating to a place where they could find a spouse. Decades later, these women reached old age and became known as maiden aunts. They were especially thick on the ground in the US in the 1900 through 1930 period and in the Commonwealth in the 1950 to 1980 period. These were the women whose potential husbands died in the American Civil War and in World War I. In the 1920s, they were often known as, quote, Victorian aunts. Oh, I love that, because they had grown up and for the most part never quite left the Victorian era. Often called spinsters and old maids, although the latter term is usually discredited as offensive nowadays. If you were born in the 60s, you may remember how incredibly common they were, both in fiction and in real life. Of course, many real-life women remained unmarried for reasons other than the one stated above. Some were lesbians, some were asexual or aromantic, some preferred a career to marriage, and some gave up on the chance of marriage to look after aging parents, and some simply didn't want the bother of a husband and family. Some are kindly and sweet, some are bitter and angry, often played straight in mysteries and for laughs in comedies. There aren't many subversions out there. Younger audiences are usually squicked by any hint of sexuality in an older woman.
Okay, so that last bit, I don't know what squinted means.
probably turned off. Like,
Yeah.
no, like young kids don't want to hear about like an older woman getting her rocks off.
Right,
Like,
right, right. I want to
yeah.
talk about, we talked about this a long time ago, but Under the Tuscan Sun. Do you remember that movie?
I love that movie.
I do too. The woman, the older woman, the very sexual woman, she is not tied down, but on this, like as a young person watching that, you're like she's kind of fucking old. She don't give a shit. She's dancing in that fountain. She is drinking the champagne at breakfast.
She is eating that ice cream whenever the fuck she wants. She always had an ice cream cone in her hand, right?
She did. Yeah.
She's like the aunts. She's living, what's the word? Not lavishly, but just like
Deliciously.
Right. She just wants to feel that pleasure at all times. And that pleasure doesn't have to come from a man. It can come from simple indulgences like ice cream and alcohol and just whatever the fuck you want.
Yeah,
Whatever
yeah.
you want.
Mhm.
Exactly. I love that example. I love that movie.
I
It's
do
one of my
too.
favorite
It's
ones.
really good. This is about the old maid. When a single female character reaches a certain vaguely defined age threshold, anywhere between 25 and 40, depending on whom you ask, she will eventually be subjected to the most terrible of insults, an old maid. The underlying assumption is, of course, that a woman's value exists only in how successfully she serves and pleases her husband and family. So a woman who is unable to snag a husband is a pathetic, worthless failure at life. These are not my words. Who deserves contempt and ridicule, particularly in older stories, from times where traditional gender roles were more strongly enforced. A woman doesn't even have to be called an old maid outright to be threatened. Even the hint that someday she might become an old maid, usually because she's not acting in a sufficiently conformist way, is enough to make her either conform or fall into despair. The insult is still used today. Is it really?
Yeah, I mean, I've heard it used as a child referring to family members who still aren't married or have children.
Okay. I haven't heard it like slung around in a long time.
I've heard spinster, but
Yeah,
not
not old
really
maid.
old maid. Yeah.
Along with the just as an insulting spinster, but most likely as a generic inflammatory comment towards women that the speaker doesn't like. Reference will often be made to cats, homely appearance. Oh yeah, okay, so they're saying like cat lady.
Crazy cat lady. Yeah.
Homely appearance, detestable demeanor, being a lesbian, loneliness, and uselessness. Nosy parents who are waiting for grandkids or as worried about their child's happiness are a rife source of this as well. While not invariable, the reason for their never marrying may bring them more or less sympathy. Never marrying after the intended bridegroom of an arranged marriage died may be regarded as honorable if it was a love match. It may be regarded as romantic. This can apply also if the man had to marry for reasons of honor or state. Having your heart broken by a cad or quarreling with a sweetheart may also be romantic, but makes the character less pathetic than an old maid who never managed to attract anyone. But the proud beauty who rejects a whole slew of offers only to find her beauty faded and herself unable to attract a man may be regarded as suffering laser-guided karma. An associated Japanese concept is the Christmas cake, formerly a separate trope. The idea that just as a Christmas cake stops being desirable after December 25th, a woman stops being desirable for marriage after age 25. This is like a Leonardo DiCaprio conversation. You know?
Oh yeah. Or Jake Gyllenhaal, right?
Yeah. This has since given way to the less popular New Year's noodles, where the age limit is increased to 31 after December 31st.
Oh damn.
That's so cute. It's not cute, but it's a funny name.
Yeah,
A
yeah.
relatively rare romance is usually December romance. The commonest plot is new old flame or an old maid who's quarreled with her lover. A second love is possibly for a woman whose true love is deceased. Old flame fizzle is rare but not unknown. This is sometimes reinforced with tropes like men get old, women get replaced. And women leaving the main story after they grow old and start families.
Do you know what a December to December romance is?
Like a big age gap?
So, romantic love that arises between two elderly or senior citizens.
Oh my god.
Yeah, it may be depicted tragically in works where mortality or mental illness is a theme, but it can also be used optimistically as proof that love and dating have no age limits.
Like the old people in the Notebook.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was thinking. Uh-huh.
So sad.
Yeah, and of the mental illness, what didn't she have dementia or something like that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah. And then the old
100%.
people in Up, didn't she get sick?
Oh, yeah.
Dude, I was editing the other day. This has nothing to do with spinsters or anything, but you let out a horse thief and I just flew over my head. And as I was editing, I was dying because I didn't hear you. And then I heard
remember
it
when
in
I said that.
editing, and it was so funny.
Did you
Oh,
leave
we
it
were
in?
talking about a goddess who had to do with horses, and you were like, horse thief. And I just kept on going.
You get so in the zone sometimes. My one-liners go unnoticed.
I have to really concentrate, honey.
Yeah.
The next one is cool uncle, but I think we can flip that with cool aunt. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, cool uncle, cool aunt. I mean, if you don't want to put a gender to it, I guess, can men be looked down upon? If no, I don't know, because like we talked about this earlier on in this episode, right? How
Yeah.
men are always deemed like the bachelor or the cool guy for
Right,
not
right.
getting married at a certain age or like playing the field. So I don't know if you could flip it necessarily.
Well, tell me what it says. Maybe we'll find out.
Okay. So the cool uncle. So this says lots of families have that one uncle that gets on great with all the kids. Most often, he's a youngish bachelor, there's that term again, with no children of his own and has no intention of settling down anytime soon, though he may be romantically involved.
I'm just picturing Jillian. She's the cool aunt.
Right. Actually, I have a little story after this. So
Okay.
he may travel a lot and wow the kids with stories of meeting celebrities and traveling the world. And if so, he always brings back the coolest souvenirs, which he naturally gives away as presents. And he's much more free-spirited than the kids' straight-laced parents. Regardless, he will often be secretly envious of the stability and loving home life that his siblings enjoy with their spouse and kids, even as he boasts of his own independence. The uncle may be the black sheep of the family. Often he's the kid's godfather as well. If they ever lose their parents, he'll be the one who steps in and becomes the parental substitute. This can lead to character development if he has to tone down his lifestyle and become a responsible guardian for the kid's sake. But if only his sibling dies, his surviving in-law may feel obligated to keep him in the kids' lives, even if he and the in-law clash. This trope is usually male, but the role will occasionally be taken on by an aunt, which you said Jillian, right? So I have a couple things to note here that kind of makes me think of like the cool uncle.
Okay.
The first one is my mom had an uncle growing up, and he was always considered the cool uncle, the bachelor. And she would always tell me stories about like he lived alone in this really beautiful like Tudor style house, and right that neighborhood where I took you where Ducray to see my old art school, like he lived like right over there in that section of Plainfield. And she would just tell me stories about like her and her cousins would just hang out at his house after school, and he was just like the cool uncle. And he did get married, and he actually had 3 children.
Okay.
So he didn't remain the cool bachelor uncle for too long, but I remember like for a while, like she would always tell me stories about like when he was like single and he didn't have a wife or kids, like he was that uncle.
Nice.
Yeah.
I thought there was gonna be something like sinister to this story.
No. It's not sinister at all. But like that's what made me think of it. Like the whole cool uncle trope. That's what made me think of it, because I remember all the stories my mom would tell me about her uncle growing up. And then the other thing is this makes me think of my brother. He's not that like we consider him as the black sheep of the family, but maybe he might consider himself as the black sheep of the family. He made it a point to like move away right out of high school. Like he went to college away from our small town, and then he went out west. He set up a life out there. He's got crazy career. Like he's like doing so many different things. When he comes back home for like the holidays or like, you know, to just visit, we always get an earful of all of his like adventures and like his success and like all of the stuff that he's accomplished out there. And like it's really cool, but like on the flip side, like I'm close to my brother, so we talk a lot about like, you know, how he feels that our family might not see. He wants to settle down. He wants to have a family. Like he misses home. He misses like, you know, I know like he kind of like looks at like mine and Avi's marriage, and like maybe he feels like left out that he's not settling down or has like starting a family or whatever. Not that me and Avi have started a family. I mean, we started a fur family. But like, you know, like I could tell sometimes that he wishes like he
had a little of that
decisions or but like he's just so busy with his career. Like he put his career, he's Stevie Nicks. He's putting his career first.
Good for him.
So those are the choices he made, but like, on the flip side, there's always that sense of like loneliness or making different life decisions. Maybe he thinks like maybe it could have taken him in a different path if he chose like
sure.
a family over his career.
Yeah.
So that whole cool uncle trope just makes me think of my brother.
That's so sweet.
His name is also Vincent, which
Yeah.
in the books,
It's
right?
perfect. Yeah. And I think if the aunts had kids, Vincent would have been the cool uncle. He plays
sure.
guitar, he's kind of a baddie,
Yeah.
So this last one is called Widow Witch. It says, when a woman is mysterious and solitary, at least in terms of a husband, the town community will probably shun her, calling her a witch. In a fantasy story, it might be true, as she is a wicked witch who wanted to get rid of her husband, so she cast spells to help things get going. Or perhaps there is a curse on her family that makes it so they lose men. If the story is not a fantasy story, the witch impression might just be the vibe the old woman gives off as she is in mourning for her late husband. The whole thing exists because of the unfortunate implications of the similarities between widows and witches. It is understandable that the neighborhood would feel that she is creepy if the woman still dresses in black and her only friends are women, or she only lives with women. Although her lack of interaction with men might be because she's not actually interested, or they aren't interested in her because she's ugly as a witch. Other similarities include tending to an herb garden that reminds her of all that is living and healthy, having a cat because it's easy to take care of and will keep her company, being very old and unwell, being bitter towards people as the widow is old and lonely, and laughing wickedly because she's out of touch with reality. There is also speculation that some widows, such as Sarah Osborne in Salem, were accused of witchcraft by relatives of their husbands who believed themselves more deserving of their inheritance.
Yeah, we talked about that a little earlier on in this episode. Unfortunately, the Salem witch trials were all due to greed and fighting over land. I could totally get on board with being a widow witch.
Let's keep Avi around for a while.
No, I mean, let's keep him around. But I'm saying, like if when that time comes, like I don't feel like I need to get back out and like play the field. You know what I'm saying?
Dating sounds
I'm
miserable.
fine with my cats. Oh yeah, dating. Fuck dating.
Just get like a big old house with your buddies
and buddies and cats. That's all you need.
Yeah.
But
herb garden.
We're gonna keep him around for now.
Yeah.
I did not mean to kill him off. That was not what I was trying to get at, but that's funny. There's a podcast that I've been listening to called, I think it's called A Dark and Stormy Night or Cold and, I forget the name of the podcast. It's basically a woman telling like these like really eerie kind of like Victorian style like ghost stories. And there was a story that I was recently listening to, and it just made me like really sad because it was about a woman who, lost her husband who she loved dearly. And she ends up trying to contact him, like seance style. Like she has a Ouija board and stuff. And like it just like talks about her loneliness and her feelings after her husband passes away. She ends up contacting a spirit who she thinks is her husband, but we find out that it's not her husband. And it's really fucking creepy.
Plot twist.
Plot twist, exactly.
Yeah.
But I mean, just listening to that story, it made me so sad. Like,
yeah, that is like we talked about this, watching Sally's devastation when she goes to the back door, wants the aunts to bring Michael back, just hits so differently having a significant other now. And like that thought, that's like my biggest fear, is just losing Aaron. And how do you ever see PS I Love You?
Yeah.
And
I hate that movie. I hate it. It's too sad. I can't.
So sad. I can't
watch
sad.
it.
That would be me, just like trash everywhere. I would not clean up after myself.
Moving to Ireland. Where she goes? Ireland, Scotland?
Ireland, yeah.
Ireland. I think I've seen that movie maybe once or twice, if that, and I'm just like, I can't do this movie. It's way too heavy for me.
It's just real, like very real. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good
and
music
those
though.
Are very, very real feelings, and people go through that grief every single day, but it's not something that I want to fucking think about.
I know.
Yeah, this is an uncomfortable discussion.
Okay, let's
bring the mood back up.
More pop culture.
Not that practical magic isn't depressing because everybody loses their fucking husband, but I feel like it's more comedic. It's like a dark comedy, so it kind of like puts a lighter, more lighthearted spin on the reality of it, which I think is probably the difference why I can actually like stomach practical magic and like not so much PS I Love You.
It's not the forefront of the story, I guess. It's a
Right.
big plot driver, but not it's not
Right.
what we're there for.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm not here for the death. I'm here for the witchcraft.
I'm here for the Dracula cowboy, please.
I'm
And
here
thank
for
you.
those spooky eyes. Anyway, so spinster characters have been around in popular culture for centuries, and let's be real, they're not exactly presented as aspirational. While Jane Austen's protagonists were busy spending their whole time deciding who to marry, unmarried older women like Miss Bates and Emma were confined to a life of spinsterhood, ready to die poor and alone. Meanwhile, Charles Dickens' Miss Havisham wallows in her wedding dress in a ruined mansion, driven mad after being jilted at the altar. Obviously. While representations like Jane Austen's were sadly true for their time, the idea of unmarried single women as sad, lonely spinsters is still regularly perpetuated in modern films and TV shows. Think Bridget Jones accepting her, quote, permanent state of spinsterhood and preparing to be eaten by Alsatians?
I don't know what that is.
I don't know what that is. I think I've seen that movie maybe once. While the whole dinner table shames her for being unmarried in her 20s, even though she had a whole thriving career. Again, like it's either like door A or door B. Choose your career or choose
Motherhood.
Spinsterhood or motherhood. Or think of Tina Fey's Liz Lemon in 30 Rock, who tries being a spinster by wearing baggy jumpers and a bum bag and adopting a cat when none of her relationships work out. Listen, don't mock the cat lady, okay?
Or the bum bag. Fucking fanny packs
Or
are
the
where
bum
it's
bag.
at.
Like cat ladies, I'm sorry, we have it figured out. We have low tolerance for bullshit, and a cat provides the least amount of bullshit. I mean, unless you're Punky, and then
Yeah.
he kept me up all fucking night last night, that little shithead. But besides the point, most cats are pretty chill. Don't ever get a ginger cat; they're nuts.
Have you seen Pride and Prejudice with
Yeah.
Keira Knightley?
Yeah, I think
She
so.
has a friend, Charlotte,
Okay.
and Charlotte is set to marry the cousin who's like ridiculous, like a stupid ridiculous guy. And
Yeah.
Charlotte goes to see Elizabeth. It doesn't matter, but she's like, I'm 27 years old. I have no money and no prospects, and I'm already a burden on my parents. It's fucking real. Like 27 was
Dude.
old.
I was a burden on my parents until I was 31 fucking years old. I got married pretty late, but I mean, I guess in today's day and age, that's like pretty normal, I guess, right?
Yeah.
And the generation coming up behind us, what is it, Gen Z? I don't think any of them are gonna fucking get married. So this goes on to say, it's not all doom and gloom. Fair enough, the producers of The Bachelor have cut us some slack and given us The Bachelorette. Ooh, yay, we get a show!
Thank God.
And there are plenty of incredible single women to aspire to, whether it's Lizzo marrying herself or Emma Watson's newly coined, quote, self-partnered status, which we talked about a little earlier. So meanwhile, some women have tried to reclaim the word spinster as a positive one, writing books like Kate Bollock's Spinster, Making a Life of One's Own, or rebranding the term as spinster chic. But let's be real, there's a lot of fun that comes with being single, like having the freedom to do literally whatever you want, whenever. And you also get to laugh at single memes, so really it's a win-win.
I think you said earlier, like you just wanted to do the opposite of what everybody was saying. And then like after my divorce, I felt the same way. I was like, I do not want to get married again. That was
Yeah.
such a pain in the ass. Like
Mm-hmm.
not just the traumatic emotional stuff that went along with it, but all the like legal shit. That was such a pain in the ass. And I don't know what flipped in my mind. Like Aaron and I had been together like 5 years, and we were like, I don't think he was planning on asking me. I think he was perfectly content just doing his own thing. Like, you know, he's a cucumber. And I don't know what flipped. I think it was maybe we wouldn't be able to like get a house together. We, you know, financially it might be more stable. And I was like, I'm just going to ask him. I don't know what flipped though. I was like, I want you to be my person. And if we have to make that legal, let's do that.
Yeah. And like we talked about this a little bit earlier in this episode. Like it's not always, I mean, I'm not saying like you didn't love your husband, but like, you know, sometimes it's not always just about love, right? Like you want to feel taken care of. You want to feel secure in a partnership, whether it's just a legal thing or, I mean, like obviously there's has to be some level of love and intimacy to want to take that step with somebody. But like, you know, it's other stuff just besides the love, right?
Yeah. Yeah. But I had it in my mind. I was like,
Yeah.
why? Why bother getting married? What's the big deal? And then I was like, all right, if there is an afterlife, maybe maybe legally, if we're married, I'll find his little soul again out somewhere.
And don't they say that the ring finger, having a ring on both your fingers, like there is a vein that connects from your ring finger all the way to your heart. You're literally connected through your
Ring
artery,
finger.
your
Yeah.
veins. Yeah, the literal string that connects you.
I'll tell you real quick, when I asked him, we were in Iceland and I knew I wanted to ask him because I had asked his friends. I was like, would he take offense if I asked him? And they were like, no, go for it. They were excited. So Iceland was beautiful. It was awesome, but I was so stressed out the whole time and I was so mean. I was being so mean to him because I was like trying to figure out when I was going to ask him and just stressed about the trip, and none of the places we were stopping felt right. And I was like, we stopped off on the side of the road to look at these like ancient churches, and there were like sheep in the field. And I was like, I'm going to do it now. And like, I was shaking and crying. Like, he's not going to say no. We're in a foreign country. I could just leave him there if he said But I told him, I was like, I don't know, where we're gonna be in 45 years, but I hope we're still together. And like, I want you to be my person. There's a song by Stan Rogers called 45 Years From Now. And it's all about like this woman had been married before, like what's the point? And they come to learn to love again. And so I was like crying and shaking.
It's so beautiful.
Yeah, check out Stan Rogers. He's amazing. Canadian folk R.I.P.
You managed to find a good, perfect song for every fucking occasion. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I appreciate you.
Yeah. It's funny that you say that, because I didn't propose to my husband. He proposed to me. But when we went on that trip to Salem in like 2016, the trip where we got engaged, we fought that entire time too, because it rained. It rained the entire fucking trip. And I think he was getting a little pissy because he was like, it's raining every single day. When am I going to fucking do this? It has to be on this trip.
It's got to be perfect. I was so mad.
Exactly. And the last day, we were literally leaving Salem, checking out of our Airbnb, and it was the beautiful sunny. It was very windy and cold, but it was finally fucking sunny out. And he's like, finally could do this. He was carrying the ring in his pocket without a box the entire trip. Like, he could have fucking lost it.
What a brave soul.
He was like really paranoid the whole time, so he was definitely pissy. So I think that's why we were fighting the whole time.
And then he pointed out it was on that beach stretch, right?
Yeah.
Oh, so cute. You guys were so cute. So you mentioned a little bit ago a book by Kate Bollock called Making One's Own Life, right? Spinsters. Yeah, Kate Bollock, Spinsters, Making One's Own Life. Bollock highlights the power of single women, emphasizing that being unmarried does not equate to loneliness or despair. With the increase in number of people marrying later and choosing not to marry at all, Bollock's book enters a time where single women were increasingly prominent. She structures her narrative around 5 awakeners, female literary figures who are spinsters for parts of their lives, demonstrating that the idea of unmarried women is not a new phenomenon. Bollock draws from her own experiences, reflecting on her fear of conforming to societal expectations and how she ultimately learned to trust herself in the moment. The book delves into the fear many women harbor about being single forever, discussing the internal conflict and societal pressures they face. Bollock acknowledges her own tendencies as a worrier, but asserts that she never had the classic fear of being alone in her later years. Her 85-year-old self, 85? No way.
Wow.
Her 85-year-old self, she believes, will be proud. I should have finished reading. Will be proud of her decision to pursue a career as a writer despite the challenges she faced in maintaining financial stability while following her passion. Bollock also examines how relationships can sometimes hinder personal growth and creativity, using her own experience of relying on long-term relationships for confidence as an example. She questions the societal norms that often lead individuals to make compromises in their lives based on predetermined expectations, urging for a world where individuals have the freedom to make choices without societal pressures. In discussing the contemporary significance of the single woman, Bollock critiques the societal value placed on traditional roles of wife and mother, arguing that the unmarried woman often becomes an object of curiosity or threat. She strives to create a historical and literary context for the single experience, showcasing women from the past who thrive in unmarried and childless states. Bollock suggests that by broadening the understanding in different ways of life, society can better recognize the potential for self-determination and creativity that comes from being alone. She encourages younger women to embrace their single periods, celebrating independence and personal growth rather than succumbing to anxiety and the search for a partner. Through her book, Bullock seeks to redefine the conversation surrounding single women, urging readers to reconsider the possibilities of richness of life beyond the confines of societal expectations.
I hate fucking societal pressure. Like,
Mhm.
it's just such a fucking downer. It's like a bummer. Like, dude, why can't you just let me live my fucking life? What do you care what I'm doing, right?
Be a really big downer.
So, spinsters are often portrayed as witches in pop culture. So, this article is from spinstersofhorror.com.
Nice.
There's a whole website dedicated to the Spinsters of Horror.
Mhm.
So this article is by Jessica Parent. And she says, in a recent rewatch of the 1939 film, The Wizard of Oz, I realized where my fascination with witches came from as I watched Glinda float down from the sky in her bubble and the Wicked Witch of the West summon her flying monkeys to do her bidding. I remember loving the power displayed by these female residents of Oz. However, as a child, I felt conflicted about the imagery surrounding what it means to be a good witch or a bad witch. A good witch was sweet, beautiful, intelligent, surrounded by light, and loved by everyone, especially children, whereas the bad witch was clad in black robes, was hideously ugly, and surrounded by scary creatures. Also, the one depicted with the green face. She also hated children, almost to the point of killing them. I obviously didn't want to be the bad witch, as this would mean I hated children, as well as being non-nurturing, which is the complete opposite of how I am. I am very nurturing. I'm a loving woman. I don't dislike children, at least not all of them. I just chose not to have any of my own. But I didn't want to be seen as a witch that wanted to murder or eat children, despite the occasional joke about it. Where did the idea of bad and evil witches being child haters and murderers come from? The belief was born out of a rumor during the Middle Ages. This was a time where heretical persecution in Europe was at its highest, and often these accusations included witchcraft, infanticide, and cannibalism. The Manual for Hunting Witches in 1486, written by Catholic clergyman Heinrich Kramer, the Malleus Maleficarum, used the idea that witches can be identified when they could be seen, quote, roasting their firstborn male child, end quote. Women in Europe during the 1600s witch hunts would be accused of murdering babies while they slept, roasting them, and saving bits for, quote, flying ointment. We all remember that scene in The Witch.
Mhm.
Infanticide and cannibalism become synonymous with the witch and would then influence the fairy tales of the Brothers Grimm, such as Hansel and Gretel, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, the Pied Piper of Hamelin, and Rapunzel. Children learn from these tales of the supposed evils of witches or abnormal women, and to be suspicious of anyone who did not conform to societal norms such as motherhood. That only women who could be trusted were those submissive in their roles as wives and mothers, as they could be the good witches, made strong in their desire to have and protect children.
Real quick, the
Yeah.
scariest character in that movie, The Witch, was the mom.
I agree.
She was, oh my God, she's so scary.
She was nuts.
Yeah.
The whole family was kind of fucked,
Yeah.
right?
Good movie, though.
So such a good movie. You know, every time I try to watch that movie with Avi, he falls the fuck asleep. I think I finally got him to like sit down and watch it. Like we had just woken up probably like a month ago, and I put it on. Like as soon as we woke up, I was like, "You're gonna freaking watch this movie," because every time we watch it at night, when we should watch it because it's creepy and dark and spooky, he falls asleep. Slow moving. It's very slow.
It is very slow. Is there not a lot of background music either?
No.
I think that's what makes it even creepier, is because there's no like filler music.
Yes.
Yeah.
So while I was surrounding myself with books and movies that featured witches such as Grimm's Fairy Tales, the Oz series, Alice in Wonderland, The Witches from 1990, and Hocus Pocus in 93, I was constantly seeing the image of a powerful woman who was often feared and hated because she did not like or have any children herself. She was an evil woman, someone not only to be feared but also hated, for she did not want to contribute to the population of her village, but instead to feast on their precious children. She was often pitted against a white witch, Glinda, the fairy godmother, Miranda? That's supposed to be
Miranda?
Miranda? I love that lady on TikTok. Miranda? And the White Queen. Or a sweet, beautiful woman. My God, stop. Oh, man. Or a sweet, beautiful woman from Cinderella, Snow White, and Alice and Helga, whose decisions and behavior were representative of the desired qualities in women to be mothers, women who would put the well-being and lives of their children above their own. I was being shown to be a good witch. I must be at the service of others, and my life was not my own. To think or act otherwise would be selfish and make me evil and dangerous. These evil and bad witches were a threat, and by depicting them as child murderers and haters was to justify taking actions against them. Roald Dahl's The Witches is a dark fantasy film based on the 1983 book of the same name. Did you see the Grimlife Collective? They're in the UK right now, and they actually just visited the Hotel Excelsior where they filmed The Witches.
No, that's cool.
They did like a whole tea time with the Grand High Witch or whatever. Not really Angelica Houston, but it was like some random lady in like the bald cap and like the nose. It was pretty cool. They actually got to like stay at the hotel. It is a simple story of a young boy and his grandmother teaming up to foil a devious plan to turn all the children of England into mice by evil witches who masquerade as ordinary women. It stars Angelica Houston as Eva Ernst, the Grand High Witch. That's it, the Grand High Witch, and the all-powerful leader of the world's witches.
Was Anne Hathaway in the remake?
Yes, I never saw that one yet.
I didn't see it either.
That looks good. I gotta see that. Was that a Disney movie? Was that on Disney?
I don't know.
Because if it was, it should be on Disney Plus, which I have, so I'll watch it on there.
Is she a Disney princess? Dude, did you see? Did I send this to you? Whatever production Rocky Horror was bought out by Disney.
Was it?
And so Frankenfurter, now Disney princess.
Is it Disney? Wait, Disney character? Frankenfurter?
Disney princess.
What? I did not.
I'll find the article. I'll send it to you. It was on that Rocky Horror Facebook group you joined.
So Disney owns the rights to Rocky Horror now?
I think so.
That is so strange. They're just monopolizing everything.
Everything.
I hope they don't like try to re-edit the movie to make it PG. Like,
oh my god.
I would be so fucking pissed.
Shoot me now.
Yeah. All right, so while this movie does not have witches wanting to eat children, as they can't even stand the smell of them, as they claim to smell of dog droppings, the witches want to rid the world of children by turning them into mice and having their parents call exterminators on them. When I watched this film again recently, I realized that the witches only use a potion to transform the children, making the parents responsible for killing the children, keeping the witches' hands clean of the bloodshed. That is pretty devious and dark. I think it's called the 86 potion or something like that. Yeah, that's the potion in the film. So, however, this author goes on to say, I did not see that as a child. I just remember being in awe of Eva, the Grand High Witch, when she made her entrance to the coven meeting of the Royal Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Children. I saw a beautiful, intelligent, and strong woman who knew what she wanted, and that did not include children. She had no interest of them. But when we see Eva remove her human face, she is a large, hideous creature with long, pointy fingernails, a crooked spine. She cackles as she conducts her experiment with Bruno, one of the boys staying at the hotel. And as a young girl, I was being taught that underneath the exterior of a successful and child-free woman was a hideous witch plotting the murder of children. So as I grew older and eventually identified as a witch, I felt somewhat evil because I did not want to have any children. Ever. That I was following in line with the stereotype that witches were cold, uncaring, and selfish women, despite the fact that I know other women who identify as witches, but also have children. I understood the desire to have unfettered independent lives living child-free. But because these women did not conform to the traditional role of a wife and mother, she was a threat to be exiled from the community or looked down upon by other men and women. This is often how women who have chosen to be child-free are treated in society that holds high value toward the nuclear family. To be child-free is to, quote, have the peace of mind about not having children, end quote, for various personal reasons and situations, which is different from being childless, which is, quote, those women who wanted to have children but were unable to, which reflects their sadness, end quote. Being child-free gives validity to a woman's agency and her choices, which is also what I think being a witch invokes. So she goes on to say, I have known since I was a teenager that I never wanted any children of my own. This was probably due to being forced to mother my siblings at a young age because of constant family dysfunction. So part of me feels that while my childhood was robbed from me, I would gain it back as an adult. Other reasons to not have children motivated me over the years, such as economical, situational, and moral, responsibility. Before I got married, I did not plan to have any children, and I was constantly told that I would, quote, change my mind. I feel like
Oh,
that's like what.
fucking hate that. It's different when they're your own.
No, it's not. It's not. I like my time. I like my peace and quiet when I come home from a work day. You know, I don't feel like I need to validate myself to anybody.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, we're not throwing parents under the bus. You guys are doing a great job. We are just saying, personally for us, this is how we feel. We like our time. That's it.
Right. And again, we don't all hate children. I'm a fucking nanny, for crying out
I
loud.
love kids.
I love kids too. But like, I like my me time better than wanting to be a mother, I guess you could say.
Caitlin has a very, very cute little nephew, and she talks about him all the time. And she's like, at one point, she marked on me. She was like, "Oh, I know, like you don't really like kids and talk about kids." I was like, "Caitlin, I like kids. I've always taken care of kids. You can talk about them. That's fine."
Caitlin knows you used to be a nanny, right?
Oh, sure. Yeah, for sure.
Well,
And
she's
Caitlin is
saying
one
you
of
don't
those
like
that is
kids.
so maternal and has always wanted kids. And she'd be an awesome mom. And that's one place we don't see eye to eye. And that is totally fine because I get to be the cool aunt that spoils the shit out of them. She's going to be a great mom.
Yeah. She wants kids, though?
Yeah, she wants like a ton of kids.
Okay. But yeah, again, to each their own. But like, I just hate how it's always that like one side of the coin is looking at people who don't want, like the people who want the marriage and want that, I guess, societal standard of a life. Like they always look at the people who don't necessarily want to conform to those societal standards. They always look at us like we freaking hate kids. It's not Kate. That's not the case.
Right. When we would go to family functions back in California, I loved playing with those little kids. And the parents, you know, my in-laws were always like, "You don't have to play with them." I'm like, "Yes, I do. I want to." Like, that's why I'm here. Of course I want to play with them.
I feel like a lot of the reason why maybe we don't want kids is because like I still feel like I'm in my childhood. Like I still feel like a kid myself, and like I'm like, who am I to have a child? Because I still feel like I can't even take care of myself. So if my own basic needs sometimes feel like they're not being met because I can't take care of my own adult self, why would I feel qualified to be a mother or like guide somebody's life in that aspect? You know what I mean? I don't know.
When my period is late in my teenager brain, I'm like, oh no.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to get in so much trouble.
Yeah. And I feel like me and you touched on this in the placenta episode of
I think
why we're choosing not to have kids is because of that childhood teenage trauma of like our moms just being like, don't get pregnant. And it's ingrained into my head that if I do get pregnant, that's a negative. That's a bad
no-no.
thing.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Sex is
Christian
bad.
guilt.
Yeah.
Catholic guilt.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah. So maybe that does contribute to my choices now. And now I'm sure my mother's shooting herself in the foot because every time she comes over, when are you gonna turn your studio into the baby room?
Oh,
it's never gonna happen, Mom.
Yeah.
So
I think you're
now
right.
she's got to accept that she's got fur grandbabies and she's got to be okay with it.
Yeah.
So she goes on to say, when I actually got married and still didn't want to have any children, it was a constant source of conflict between myself and my ex-husband, who wavered back and forth on the issue constantly. When I came out as a witch in the final year of my marriage, I was accused that the reason that I didn't want to have children was that I was selfish and didn't like them. That choosing to have a child-free life meant I was being a difficult woman and not fulfilling my role as a dutiful wife. Bearing my husband's namesake. I was then casting spells on him in the night and manipulating him to be, quote, castrated or to get him to have a vasectomy. I was negatively impacting his manhood in denying him the role of being a father and having his child carrying on his legacy. I was an evil woman and a threat. I was a bad witch. I was demonized by my ex-husband and his family for choosing to be child-free despite the fact that I listed various reasons why having children was not suited for me. I was denied my agency.
Oh, ouch.
So was it saying that like she was doing all of those things? They were making it out to seem like she was doing all those things, but she really she was just standing by her choices. She wasn't really doing witchcraft in the night, cursing her husband.
Right. Yeah.
Like they're just like they just put this like weird spin on things to like villainize and demonize, and it's
it's because there has to be a reason she doesn't want kids, and it's because she's a witch, and witches don't like kids and XYZ. Yeah.
It's really fucked up. She says, however, over the last 4 years, I have learned so much about how witches have been historically misrepresented in media and literature. That I was not a bad witch, I was just being a strong woman. That what was taught to us as children about the difference between being a good witch or a bad witch was dictated by the will of the patriarchy as means to not only keep the women divided, but mistrusted. This is what we would read or see on the silver screen, that if a witch were to exist, it would be in the image created by men. She needed to be beautiful, morally good, love children, and protect the status quo. Anything otherwise would be deemed abnormal. That the idea of witches eating children all came out of a rumor as a means for witch hunters to justify their actions of murdering innocent women. To protect the patriarchy, the child-hating witch was born and used as a means to keep women afraid. That to make the decision to not have children means that there is something deceptive about your intentions, as it only seems natural for a woman to want to have children, to be mothers. To make any decisions of the contrary would be regarded with suspicion and scorn. Often the image of the witch and the child-free woman are approached in the same way. In 2021, child-free women are still regarded with stigma. We are often characterized as selfish, cold, not nurturing, which is often the same characteristics apply to a witch. While these women are comparatively living happier and healthier lives, we are still, quote, othered, and often have to fight harder for resources. This is because we are subverting the traditional patriarchal defined role for women to be mothers, which threatens the ability of men to continue to deny female agency. To question or reject the traditional gender roles in parenthood is to be a threat, and who has historically been deemed a threat to the patriarchy? The witch.
The witch.
The witch.
Diamond.
Diamonds? Yeah. That woman who wrote this article, I'm wondering if like her and her, I guess then husband, they never had that talk about children before she married him?
Right. Well,
They
it
never
said
had
that
that
he went
talk?
back and forth on it a lot. So I'm guessing like when they first got married,
Yeah.
it wasn't an issue because he didn't want kids. But then he's like, I
Then
need
he
somebody to
decided.
carry on my name. It's, to be honest, it's a little selfish.
Like, you can't just flip-flop like that. Like, we already had this like screening process prior to the marriage.
Right,
Like,
right.
why are you flip-flopping now?
Yeah, I think that was a really well written article.
Yeah, I could totally see that from her perspective.
So let's get into the 30 best pop culture spinsters from flavorwire.com.
There's a lot of these, so we don't have to read all of them. I
Yeah.
mean, we don't have to read the descriptions, but we can just go through the names if you want to.
Sure. The word spinster refers to an unmarried woman and is most often synonymous with the stereotype of a past her prime old maid, a woman who hasn't made a good match and who's doomed to live an unfulfilling life. Well, that's just a stereotype talking because, hey, what's wrong with that exactly? The answer is absolutely nothing. Pop culture has given us some pretty great spinsters, although on average they do fall within a specific, homogeneous, moneyed, and white demographic. So here are their 30 favorite writers, artists, fictional characters who show the freedom that comes along with living the unmarried life, female characters who are defined by their wants and desires and not characterized through the simple scrim of their relationships.
So I guess we could read the descriptions of like the popular ones.
Sure. So
Nice.
Sabrina, the aunts from Sabrina the Teenage Witch. Such a good show. Both shows, really good. Sabrina the Teenage Witch may be a tale as old as Archie comics, but the Net Pulse Ultra version of Sabrina, 600-year-old aunts, comes from long-running Melissa Joan Hart series, Ditzy Hilda, played by Caroline Ray, and the whiskey-voiced Zelda, Beth Broderick, sparring back and forth with Salem, the animatronic black cat.
I wonder if she's related to Matthew Broderick. The next one is one of my favorites.
You wanna read this one?
Samantha fucking Jones from Sex and the City. So this says, the horny heart of this HBO series, Samantha provides the puns and wacky sex scenes. Her sex scenes are the funniest freaking scenes ever. But she's also a fantastic friend. She was never gonna get married, and she values her freedom above monogamy, even when it's with the absolute hunk like Smith Jared. She is a boss who knows what she wants and values her own self-made family above all, which is the girls, right? Her best friends. Spend the rest of the day trying to do Kim Cattrall's Samantha voice and feel like a queen.
Yeah. I read The Secret Life of Bees when I was in college. I don't remember what it's about, but the Boatwright sisters are on this list. Queen Elizabeth is on this list in both real life and the endless amount of historical interpretations. Queen Elizabeth, 1533 to 1603, was known as the Virgin Queen since she never married and never had an heir. And you know what? She kept her power and never ceded it to a man.
Kind of like the Owens family, right?
Mm-hmm.
The men always take the Owens name,
Nice.
right?
Yeah.
That's the
Yeah.
way to do it.
I like those couples too who either combine their last name to make a whole new name or they just pick a random name together.
Well, you know what my godfather calls me and Avi, right?
The cartels.
He calls us the cartels.
I love that.
I remember the first time I think my mom heard Mark refer to us as the cartels. She didn't know what he was talking about, and she thought he was just like talking about like some drug lords or something like that.
So Jane Austen is another one on this list. There's a cool movie with Anne Hathaway called Becoming Jane, I think. And James McAvoy's in that too. Without the work of Austen, arguably one of the top 5 spinsters in the game, storytelling and the marriage plot would be a whole lot different. During her short life, she had suitors, and her ribald and witty letters and novels showed that she was no prude. High standards and fear of childbirth may have put her off of marriage, and the world of letters is greater for it.
Well, yeah, fear of childbirth, because like back then, didn't it say like most deaths of women were from complications of childbirth? They didn't have modern medicine
Totally.
back
Yep.
then, right?
Yeah. The Bronte sisters are on here, Emily, Anne, and Charlotte.
Miss, I've seen this show, Miss Fisher's Murder Mysteries.
I haven't seen that one. I've seen the
Fans of
Babadook.
Babadook. It's the same actress, Essie
Okay.
Davis. So she's all dolled up for this delightful Australian series. This was streaming on Netflix for a while. I haven't seen it on there lately, but I did watch like a few episodes. So Fisher, she's a glorious Australian aristocrat. She doesn't need a man. She's too busy solving crimes, flying a plane, being a bohemian, not giving a fuck. This is a really fun show. It kind of gives me like Agatha. I don't know if this was based on an Agatha Christie novel, but it's basically like a female detective. She's trying to solve crimes, and she's just
Cool.
like going about her business, solving these crimes, and like she don't need a kid to be a badass crime solver.
Yeah, dude.
So the Lolly Willows, or the Loving Huntsman, Sylvia Townsend Warner, I guess she wrote a story about a witch, first published in 1926. Warner's book concerns a spinster who moves away from her family into a house in the country in order to take up, well, witchcraft.
Nice.
Cool, feminist, secret classic, and completely about what it means to have the room of one's own. And I kind of want to read this book now.
I do too.
Right?
So sweet.
Awesome. Harper Lee, To Kill a Mockingbird. That's a classic, right? This is probably one of the best American novels of all time, as it's been deemed. Even though the world wants to co-opt you, make sure to keep control over your own life, living by modest means in your small Alabama hometown. Lee is fascinating, enigmatic, and she's always lived life on her own terms, as the controversy over last year's The Mockingbird Next Door revealed. What's The Mockingbird Next Door? Is that like
I'm not
a
sure.
spin-off or something?
I don't know. Emily Dickinson's here on this. Little Edie from Grey Gardens. Girl, you still got to watch that documentary. Little Edie, Elsa from Frozen, Professor Minerva McGonagall, Dame Maggie Smith's character, Eleanor Rigby, that Beatles song.
Yeah. Eleanor Rigby. I never knew that was about a spinster.
Wondering all the lonely people, where
Oh,
do
I
they all
guess.
come from?
I guess I never considered the lyrics. Like, I always just like, when you sing songs as a kid, you don't really think about what the lyrics mean. And then
Yeah.
even like when you grow into an adult, you kind of like still sing it from that kid's perspective.
That and the Mrs. Robinson song.
Mrs. Robinson.
Yeah.
She was like an older,
Like
I don't know.
a cougar.
a cougar type of woman. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like the woman that Vincent was shacking up with for a while,
Yeah.
right? The next
Yeah,
door
yeah, yeah.
neighbor. Yeah.
Marilla Cuthbert, Anna Green Gables. Love Marilla. Love that. Love
Yeah,
that book.
they adopt Anne, right? Do they adopt
They
Anne?
do. Marilla and her brother, they're not getting married. They're good. I think the brother had like a flame, but they just live together and they're like, we should have like somebody to take care of and somebody to
Yeah.
help with the farm. And they think they adopt a boy, but they did not. They got Anne.
Did you ever see Anne with an E on Netflix?
I love that show. It
It's
gives me
so
such witchy
freaking
vibes.
It does. Yeah, and I never kept up. I think I only watched up to like the end of season 2 and it kept going, but like me and my mom when I still lived at home, me and my mom would like cozy on up and watch that at nighttime when like my dad would go to sleep.
Guys, I love it. I love her wonder. Like
Yeah.
everything is so magical to her, and I wish more people looked at things like that.
Yeah. She kind of always reminded me of like Pippi Longstockings in that aspect. Like she would always make like the kids around her embrace their own magic.
Mm-hmm.
Because like society is so like by the book and
Mhm.
so prude when it comes to exploring possibilities.
Yeah.
And just seeing what else is out there, not taking things at face value. And Anne always made it a point to go there. And
Yeah, push that little envelope.
Nobody liked it.
Nobody liked it.
Yeah.
Oh, and Gilbert? Wasn't her crush named Gilbert?
I don't remember.
Okay.
I gotta watch that show again. I gotta see if my mom wants to reopen our nighttime watching sessions.
Cute.
And
Okay.
finish that series off.
Yeah.
And then the last one that I wanted to add, because we talked about this on our Sudbury episode, was Ms. Jerusha Howe from the Wayside Inn in Sudbury, the resident ghost, right? She was known as, I guess, a spinster.
What up, Jerusha?
She never married, never had children. She just ran the inn, and that was her passion, and that's what she did up until she passed away.
And we can throw on there, because you just watched this, Sarah Winchester. You just-
Yes. Sarah Winchester. I think she would be more
Widow.
a widow witch, I guess.
Yeah. Okay.
I think she had a niece and a nephew.
And they had a daughter that died young.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Her daughter passed away like right after birth, and then her husband passed away, I think suddenly, and then she was heiress to all of the family's, like the gun company, the
Yep.
fortune from that whole company.
Did they show a lot of the actual house in that movie, or was it pretty
I
much
don't
about the
know.
plot, not the house?
No, it was about the house too, but I feel like the plot kind of made it make sense. I don't know how much of it was fabricated though.
Yeah, I think it probably would be. I want to watch that movie.
Yeah, it is really freaking cool though.
Cool.
A lot of it is very history based though. Like there are facts in there. Like she had the inheritance, she built this house. Construction on the house never stopped because she was afraid that the ghosts were after her if the construction stopped. She felt like she was cursed because of all the deaths because her family ran that gun company, the Winchester Gun Company, and all those guns that killed people. Like she felt responsible for all the deaths. So the house in essence was her trying to make it right, to give the ghosts a place to.
And it
I
wasn't
guess.
even her. It was because he was the Winchester. The Winchester repeating rifle was her husband and her father-in-law's company. And it was left
she
all to
inherited
her.
through marriage. Yeah,
Yeah.
so it's a great movie though. I really enjoyed it. I heard that it got bad ratings. I heard that it
I
got
heard that too.
13% on Rotten Tomatoes, but I'm like, I really enjoyed it. I liked it a
Mhm.
lot. I would really love to visit that house one day.
Give us a rundown of celebrities in our world today, or
Okay.
spinsters, considered spinsters. No child, not married.
No child, not married. So some of these celebrities are Kim Cattrall, which is the real life Samantha Jones, the woman who plays Samantha Jones. So in real life, no child, no marriage. Rashida Jones, Jennifer Aniston, Betty White, R.I.P.,
Mhm.
Tracy Ellis Ross, Winona Ryder, Dolly Parton, Oprah
I think she's
Winfrey.
married.
Dolly Parton?
Yeah. No
Yes.
kids though.
Is Oprah married, or is she just has a partner that she lives with? What's his name? Stepford or something?
Oh yeah. I don't know if
Right?
they're married.
I don't know if they're ever married. They might be married at this point by common law because they live together forever.
Yeah, yeah.
But she's
Yeah.
happy with her dogs and her partner, even though there's no real label on it. Margaret Cho, Chelsea Handler, Aisha Tyler, Helen Mirren, who plays Sarah Winchester in the movie, Renee Zellweger, Dita Von Teese, Janine Garofalo, Fiona Apple, Rachel Ray, Ashley Judd, Lily Tomlin, Kylie Minogue, Angelica Houston, Gloria Steinem, Sarah Silverman, Sarah Paulson, Marissa Tomei, Katharine Hepburn, R.I.P., Ellen DeGeneres, Stevie McFudgeon Nicks, and Alice McFluffin Hoffman,
There it is.
our very own. There's a lot of strong, powerful women who don't feel like they need to get married or have children to prove a point or to follow society's standards.
I have a feeling Taylor Swift's never going to get married.
You're probably right.
I feel like she's going to follow in like the Stevie footsteps, Dolly footsteps. You know?
I kind of hope she does.
I hope she does
And
too.
like all of
Those
these,
songs
like-
coming, girl.
yeah, exactly. Because I tell you, once you're in a happy marriage, it's hard to write music like that anymore.
Yeah.
Um,
Isn't that
It
what
took me-
changed with Adele? Wasn't she in a marriage, then out of a marriage? Just like it takes the trauma to get the muse juices
the
flowing.
good stuff, right? The good stuff, exactly. That's why it took me 10 fucking years to write new music, because like when you popped up, you were like, "Hey, let's write practical magic music." I'm like, all right, maybe this is the avenue I need to take. Maybe I need to start writing about not my own love life anymore, because that's all I used to write about as like a teenager in my 20s. I wrote about my sucky love life. And then like once you find a happy, like a stable, like committed relationship,
Nobody
you're like,
wants to hear a song about a happy marriage.
right, exactly. I was like, I don't need to write songs anymore. But like, it took you to be like, hey, let's write about like fiction, to be like, okay, maybe there is something worth still writing music about.
Nice. I'm so happy you did.
And like Practical Magic's got all the juicy like twists and turns and trauma and love
Murder.
and death and murder and all the stuff. So I'm like, this is
Hurler.
You're Hurler. This is the good stuff right here. So real quick, going back to the Taylor Swift thing, she wrote a song called The Great American Dynasty about one of her mansions in Rhode Island, and it's called the Holiday House. And this house was previously owned by a woman named, I think her name was Rebecca Harkness, and she was an heiress through marriage, kind of like Sarah Winchester, kind of like that type of deal. I don't remember what she inherited, like what her husband, what the money he made was based off of. I guess Taylor was really inspired by that whole story and that whole like dynasty in the family and the riches and the power.
Dude.
And like this woman, she married, she was a widowed, she did have children. I don't know if you could say like she disowned them, but like she wasn't a very good mother by any standards.
Okay.
Like she had the children, but ultimately it seemed like she didn't give a fuck about them.
Okay.
Like, she didn't really care.
What year was that? What year did that take place, do you think?
Was born 1915. She died in 1982, so more recent.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, but it's a fascinating story. Go listen to that song, The Great American Dynasty. Go read a little bit about Rebecca Harkness and her whole, I guess her biography or her mini bio on Wikipedia. She just had a fascinating life, and I could totally see Taylor following her footsteps. And just that she was a patron of, like, this woman was a patron of the arts, and she supported everybody's artwork, and she threw all these like extravagant lavish affairs and like parties, and like she blew her money on bullshit. But she also supported that she opened up her own like ballet companies and stuff, and she
nice.
supported the arts.
Interesting.
Her story is just really fascinating, and I could see why Taylor would want to write about her.
Yeah, that's interesting.
So she does kind of have that widow witch kind of vibe to her, I would say.
I guess we'll see. She's still pretty young.
No, not Taylor. I mean Rebecca Harkness.
Oh yeah.
But
we'll see if she marries or not.
Right, but I could see like if Taylor went down that route, that path, I could totally see her doing that. And I kind of like see her like writing about all these like different like relationships and different men, like heartbreaks and stuff, kind of like as a fuck you to society. Like, oh, you think I'm gonna like settle down finally? Nope, wrong.
This is how I make my money.
Exactly. She's laughing all the way to the bank. She ain't stupid. Good for her.
Good for her.
Cheers to Taylor Swift.
Viva la Swift.
Viva la Swift.
I think that's all we got for you guys today.
Yeah, man. What would be the next, I guess, topic in this series, right? Because we're going to keep going with this Spinsters series.
I think the next one we should do is weaving. Or sewing. I don't know.
There's so many.
There's so many.
I didn't realize how much of a rabbit hole this was.
There's so many. But what do we have to look forward to next week?
Next week, I think we're going to dive into some of the music for the Practical Magic, the original score, not the Alan Menken score. Not the Alan Silvestri score, but the Michael Nyman score, which I don't know if many people know about if they're not like, all up in the Practical Magic biz.
Michael Nyman.
Yeah, we're gonna dive into some of the it was a rejected score, actually.
Poor Michael.
He did a whole score for the movie and it was rejected, and I don't even know if he was like told about it. I think yeah, it was really shifty how it was done. It was kind of fucked up, but anyway,
just like Timothy Oliphant. Did you ever watch that thing I think I put on the Discord? Yeah, Timothy Oliphant was supposed to play Gerber Hurlett. He auditioned and was walking down the hallway and somebody stopped him, talked to him, like, oh yeah, Aiden Quinn's trying out for this role. He's a cop in this witch movie. Yeah. He's like, I think I just auditioned for that. Yeah, they just gave it to Aiden. Like, what the fuck?
What the fuck? Yeah. Right. Practical Magic, I guess the casting crew, directors or whatever.
They didn't have it all together, especially with that Witch for Hire.
Right.
They just dropped the ball.
Yeah. There were some questionable decisions being made over there, for sure. Yeah. A reminder, you can check out all of the sources pertaining to today's episode via our hero page. The link is in our show notes. And thanks again to our patron and Palmiers for creating this app and keeping creators like us organized. If you guys want to check out our Patreon, here's how to do it. You can support us for as little as $1 a month. That's our seedling tier, and that gets you access to our patron-only polls where you get to weigh in on what topics you would like us to talk about next. It also gets you our monthly calendar so you can see what topics we have coming up for the month, and it also gets you a welcome shout out on the show. Our $3 Lavender Bud tier gets you our show notes for each episode in an aesthetically pleasing PDF, our after hours posts, if there's any extra tidbits or behind the scenes info pertaining to any of our episodes, we'll post those along with a blog post or extra photos, and access to our specially curated Spotify playlists. We have created playlists for our WMSR episodes as well as Production Dream playlists for each song episode, and more. Our $5 Lilac tier gets you access to our private Facebook community where we host a monthly live stream. Plus, you'll get access to our Discord server where we host our monthly watch parties. And also on the Discord, you can join in on the discussion with other Magnolia Street neighbors via the various interesting channels and threads. And then here's the $8 Rose tier. This gets you access to extra audio-visual content such as a once-a-month full-length video episode, unlimited bonus videos, uncut footage, cutting room floor footage, bloopers, outtakes, meditations, exclusive interviews, and old home videos from the vault, or spell or ritual videos, and more. It also gets you bonus content to coincide with our song-episodes, such as full-length demo streams of our original Practical Magic inspired music, plus lyric sheets, guitar chords, and original scratch demos, or bonus video performances of our songs and more. Lastly, we have our $15 Wisteria Vine tier. Just like a twisting Wisteria Vine, there's a way for you to stay connected with us, the Stinas. In this tier, we invite you to join our private Marco Polo video messaging app. The app is totally free for both Android and iOS. Sign up with your phone number or email, and we will help you do the rest. This is a great way to chat with each other in a more intimate group setting, face-to-face via video recording. We love to show each other our pets, our gardens, or anything else you'd like to share. And just a reminder that the higher the tier you sign up under, the more rewards you get, because you get all of the rewards of the tiers below it. You can upgrade or downgrade or even cancel at any time. So to support the podcast, head to patreon.com/Magnolia Street Podcast.
Yeah, and there are additional ways to support us and our podcast that don't cost you any money. If you do listen on Spotify, please give us a star rating. If you listen to us on Apple Podcasts, please give us a written review. We love sharing those on our Instagram. And if you're on Instagram, we would really appreciate any reposts or blurbs about our podcast. And make sure to tag us at Magnolia Street Podcast in your feed, posts, stories, and share us with your Practical Magic loving friends. And we also have some awesome merch over on our Teespring in our shop, and you can access that through our Koji link in our Instagram bio. You can get our original designs on pretty much any kind of apparel, as well as other items like coffee mugs, stickers, tote bags, and water bottles. And if there's a design you want on a thing you don't see, let us know. We'll put that design on whatever you'd like.
Yeah,
we don't have any upcoming events, girl. This is going into holiday season.
About it. Yeah, I'm excited to just like chill for a minute.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm excited to talk about the Yule time and your birthday coming up.
I'm going to be the big 4-0.
That's so exciting.
Yeah. It's exciting, but it's not. It's like the end of like, where the fuck did my 30s go?
I don't know.
Like, where did it go?
But you still seem so young. Not 40 at all. Like,
I don't feel it though.
30, 31 maybe.
I feel so crickety when I wake up.
Oh, crickety.
Like I gotta keep a canister of olive oil next to my bed to just get the bones moist, just to get out of bed in the morning.
That's cute.
So fucking
oh
funny.
My god.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
And
I enjoyed this.
Hangovers get a little harder nowadays. It takes me like a full week to recover.
Totally. Yeah. The Tums have to be in crushed form.
The Tums
ingested.
There need to be many Tums, much water. And, you know, just keeping those bones lubricated, just so I don't just wither and turn into dust. Billy Butcherson.
All right, guys. We hope you enjoyed this. Visit us again next week on Magnolia Street. I'm Christina.
I'm Justina.
And we'll see you next time.
At the house on Magnolia Street, would you go down to Magnolia Street when the wisteria grow wild? At the house of magic and mystery, so would you go
see I posted some slammin' bolognese the other night. We went to this new spot in a little town, Metuchen. I'm trying to make it a personal mission of mine to try every restaurant on the main. It's just like a cute little town, like a little Hallmark town, and they got like a lot of good little restaurants.
Nice.
So I was like feeling like
The
Italian.
pasta.
Yeah, I wanted some like good bolognese and a nice glass of red wine.
Oh, nice
It was
Chianti.
it was nice and chilly on Friday night. Yeah, Friday night. It was got a little autumn crisp air, and I was like, I could just really go for a nice cozy bowl of bolognese and a glass of wine.
That sounds so freaking nice.
And then we went home and then we passed out on the couch.
Ah, that sounds so
And it
nice.
was great. And
That big pasta belly.
we're able to do that because we don't have kids.
That's the moral of the story.
Came full circle.